quality, affordable and more accessible products to consumers. Massmart CEO Miles van Rensburg says the exact locations and dates of the opening of its new stores are yet to be announced.
Today, Walmart announced plans to open our first Walmart-branded stores in South Africa later this year. This news demonstrates Walmart's commitment to making high-quality, affordable merchandise accessible to more customers in our market, and it's great news for both our country and our economy. We'll announce official opening dates of our store locations in a few weeks.
French Prime Minister Francois Bayrou is due to hand in his resignation after being heavily defeated in a confidence vote in Parliament yesterday. His exit throws France into renewed political turmoil. The BBC's Mark Lowen has the details.
It's not looking good for French politics, or indeed for President Macron, with this country in a state of political impasse after the government fell last night in a confidence vote. Francois Bayrou, the Prime Minister, called a confidence vote in order to push through 44 billion euros worth of budget cuts, but he did not have the numbers needed in Parliament. And now Francois Bayrou is expected here at the Élysée Palace in Paris, the residence of the President, to tender his resignation.
Recapping the top story, Parliament's Environment, Forestry and Fisheries Portfolio Committee says high crime levels in the Table Mountain and West Coast National Parks in the Western Cape are a threat to the country's ecotourism. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 3:30.
In sports this hour, Bruce on the verge of being the third coach to guide Bafana Bafana to the World Cup. Aidan Smith eyes World Champs final on debut in Tokyo, and All Blacks great McCaw inspires squad ahead of Springboks rematch. More details at 3:30.
Amidst misinformation and disinformation, where can we find reliable news? Turn to radio, your trusted source for truthful updates. For over 3 decades, we've upheld integrity as a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct. Count on us for news you can trust. Say no to fake news. Radio, keeping it real since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters. Tune in, trust, and stay informed.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So here's a thought. I've been reading a piece in the Mail and Guardian about the 22-year-old South African Nurain Saluji, who I understand is if not the youngest, certainly one of the youngest people on the global Sumud flotilla, right? And the question is not to talk about her, but to just make the point that the article talks about activism being deeply rooted in her family. Certainly her grandfather, Khalil Saluji, I think part of the tripartite alliance at the time. And here's the point that I want to bring up, because it just got me thinking about this, right? When you have family, parents or grandparents who are activists, right? It's an interesting thought to know, to reflect on what happens to the grandchildren and the children. What happens to them? So if you have, 4 grandparents, what happens to their children and their children's children regarding activism? Do they maintain that same level of activism? I mean, one can think, as I talk to you now, about the Mandelas and the Sisulus, those are the obvious ones one may think about, right? So what happens to their activism? Do they retain it? Are they still tuned in? Or do they tune out? And I would think that some people would tune out. I'm looking at Dali Tambo, not so much tuning out, but not necessarily going the classic activism route, although he could well actually be the activist, through the arts. I mean, that may happen. So I'm just saying that because, this flotilla story with Nurain Saluji has just got me thinking about that. To what degree do we do it in South Africa? And if you have names, tell me. It doesn't have to be big names. It could also be just within your communities where a grandparent was an activist and then the son or the mother or the daughter was an activist or less so, and then the grandchild picks up the baton once again. and this is where they are right now. So think about that and give me some names. You can call in 086 000 2032. To WhatsApp, it's 0614 104 107. That's voice or text messages. And you can tweet to hashtag The National Pulse when you tag SFM Radio and do tag me too, Ashraf Garda. Well, there we are. My name is Ashraf Garda. This is The National Pulse. 3 hours of reflecting on the biggest issues in the country, in the world, starts now. And first things first, we then get into, and I know, by the way, South Africa's GDP has increased by 0.8%, which is like it's like a huge cause for celebration, like winning a cup final of sorts. We'll come back to that later on. In the meantime, the MK party has filed a formal complaint with Parliament's Ethics Committee against President Cyril Ramaphosa, on the one hand, and the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, over remarks made during their White House visit in May. Now, you may wonder, what are we talking about here? Well, Mzwanele Manye is contending that Ramaphosa and Steenhuisen violated the Code of Ethics when they stigmatized the MK party and the EFF. So let's recap. What exactly did they say, or did John Steenhuisen say, or both of them say, that so has infuriated, the MK party? With me then is the MK party's representative, Mzwanele Manye. Good to connect with you as always here on the National Pulse.
Hi there, Ashraf. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your listenership.
Right, let's take it a step back so we understand it fully. What the charge really is against both the President and the Minister of Agriculture, right? Who just happens also to be the leader of the DA, and I'm making the point, and the other is the leader of the African National Congress. What is it that you or the MK party saw in terms of what they said or did not say at the White House that so infuriates you?
Yeah, firstly, we must just remember that Steenhuisen is actually a cabinet member. So when they did the trip with President Ramaphosa, they did the trip as members of cabinet. And when they get there, he then articulated the DA position. It is not a cabinet position to mischaracterize the MK party and the other party as some rogue elements, destroyers, or any of that ought to be kept out of the so-called GNU. Because when he was making his point, justifying why he is in this, tied up with his the enemy that he had already confirmed as his enemy, which is the ANC, but for some reason they found a reason to go into bed with them. And for him justifying that, he then says that they had a duty basically to keep the MK out because the MK and the other party are basically rebels. They are rogue elements that must be kept out. So we are saying for the DA to say that there's no issue, but for a cabinet minister to say that is a big issue because firstly it's or even a misrepresentation of the cabinet position. The cabinet position on the so-called GNU is the one that welcomes everyone and all of that. No one is refused in terms of their own position, even in cabinet. And therefore, for a cabinet member to go outside cabinet into a different country and misrepresent his executive position is a dereliction of duty, is actually abusing the office, is abusing his authorities, abusing the office for narrow political gains, as it were. So that's the issue that we have with Steenhuisen specifically. And then for Ramaphosa was saying his duty as the principal, his duty as the head of state is to protect and defend the constitution. Now, if you are going to have a constitution being trampled upon in the presence of the head of state, and it just sits there and smiles, we have a problem with that. We're saying it's dereliction of duty for him not to call Steenhuisen out on what he has done. And for that, we're saying the public protector must deal with that. We've asked the Ethics Committee to refer him, because he's not a member of parliament. We've asked the public protector the Ethics Committee to refer him to the public protector, because the public protector is empowered to deal with the president when there is, because he's a member of the executive, when there is an issue where we think the executive ethics code is breached, and we think it is breached. So this is where we are.
Okay, so regarding, let's take it one at a time. I mean, John Steenhuisen, when he made the point as representing the country at the White House, I mean, we all watched that, right? And made the point very clearly that he was there as part of the GNU to keep parties like the EFF and the MK out. What was your when I say your party, what was your response at that time, just personally, when all of you sat down? What did you feel about it?
No, it's a mischaracterization, because you see, for us as MK Party, first of all, we were very clear that we actually have won these elections, but these elections were rigged. And we know that there is a concerted effort to decampaign the MK Party. We know that if we allow this kind of mischaracterization to continue, it therefore means that when MK Party takes over, the rand will tank, because now it's being taken over by these rogue elements, these destroyers, and all of that.
And to be clear, you would have had no problem. You would have had no problem if John Steenhuisen said so as the leader of the DA. That's what party political leaders do anytime.
He'll be talking the normal nonsense that they normally talk. So we wouldn't bother about that. The problem is to abuse. That cabinet is not a DA cabinet, it's a cabinet of South Africa. That cabinet must at all material times articulate the position of the country. It's not a cabinet to be abused, to sneak in racist positions of the DA.
Okay.
That's what the cabinet is for.
In terms of that, I see, yes, you've referred the matter to the Ethics Committee and hopefully, as you said, to the Public Protector. What do you see as the end goal? I mean, you voice your displeasure, but seriously, what do you see as the end goal to this?
What do I see as the what?
As the end goal. How will this
end? End goal.
Oh, yeah.
No. The end goal is a simple one. Firstly, government must issue a public statement to restate the position. Not that we're interested in going into this coalition. This must be very clear. We're not fighting to go there, but we want it to be clear that the fact that we are not there, it's a choice for us as the MK Party. We don't want to mix with the mess that is happening in the so-called GNU. But there must not be a mischaracterization as if we've been kept out because we are rogue, because we are rebel. Because that is casting aspersions on the MK Party. We have a set of problem with this.
But if you're saying it's casting aspersions, it does suggest that you would then believe that a person like John Steenhuisen has influence. That means what he says in South Africa and to the world actually is able to influence the thoughts of other people. Do you give him that much credit?
You must remember that Steenhuisen alone means nothing to the world. But you must not forget the donkey and the Jesus story. Donkey and Jesus and the donkey. Don't forget that story. That the donkey, because it was carrying Jesus, basically, and everything is all nice because Jesus is on the donkey and all of that. But now when you have the donkey without Jesus going out there thinking that it is the one that is being praised, you must deal with the donkey. So in this situation, we're dealing with the donkey, that Steenhuisen is nothing without the cabinet, and therefore wherever he goes, you must remember he's Jesus. Jesus is a cabinet, and therefore he must always articulate the cabinet position as long as he's a cabinet minister. He can't be a cabinet minister and become a Steenhuisen in his own right as a donkey. You must remember he's just a donkey on his own, and therefore he must behave as a donkey should, and so on, and not pretend as if he is a Jesus.
So to pick up on your, Jesus and the donkey analogy, if, as you said, he's Jesus, and I have to choose my words very carefully, he's Jesus is the cabinet, then what role would you attribute then to Cyril Ramaphosa, the president?
No, he's not Jesus in the cabinet. I'm saying the cabinet is Jesus, so to speak, and therefore a person representing the cabinet represents a Jesus, as it were. So Steenhuisen, he must not go there and misrepresent Jesus. He must go there and represent Jesus. He must not misrepresent. He must not say, me as a servant of Jesus, I am saying this all kind of nonsense about the MK Party, because the Jesus clothing gives him credibility.
Okay.
But we're saying that credibility must not be abused for narrow political interests of a racist.
All right, point made. Now, if you're saying, and I want to be very clear, if you're saying the cabinet is Jesus, I mean, we're obviously talking symbolically here. I get that, right? What then would you attribute the role of Ramaphosa? biblically?
His role, he must remember that the Constitution gives the executive authority to one person and one person only, the president of the country, which he then delegates to the rest of his assistants, which we otherwise call ministers. And therefore, if any one of his assistants is off track, he has a duty to correct. And if he doesn't correct, he becomes complicit in the nonsense that his assistants are doing. This is the issue. We're saying you are not a principal for nothing. You are a principal to maintain law and order. You are a principal to defend and uphold the Constitution. So if any of your assistants is messing up, you must rise. If you don't rise, you are complicit.
Okay, did you really expect him to correct Steenhuisen at the White House?
In the interest of the country, yes. Because
but did you
what
expect
he
it?
is doing,
Yeah.
Yes, I expected it because I would have expected it because one would have thought that a head of state, a person that was part of crafting the Constitution, when it is being trampled upon, he must rise and defend the good work that the country has gone so far. He must rise and defend the democracy that we have in this country. But if he is going to allow the democracy of South Africa to be mischaracterized as being participated in by so-called rogue elements and all of that, when he knows that the MK party is a party registered in Parliament, is a party represented in Parliament, is in fact an official opposition. Now, if we're going to have an official opposition being mischaracterized in his presence, and he does nothing about that, surely he's complicit.
Okay, what, some may argue the point, and maybe let me do this. I'll ask you that question just after this.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
The green and gold of Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
We're going to conclude the conversation with Mzwanele Manye, representing the MK party. You can call in because I'll take your calls on this right away, which is really, does the MK party, do they have a point of being offended by the pronouncements of John Steenhuisen at the White House and the lack of intervention by the President of South Africa, keeping in mind both of them, when they were at the White House, were representing the government and therefore the country and not narrow political party interests. 086 000 2032, that's your call-in number. And then WhatsApp, text, voice notes or text 0614 104 107. So to conclude then, Mzwanele, let's just, some may argue the point that I hear everything that you're saying, but is it not a case of the MK party itself simply saying this publicly as a means of ensuring that you do not fall out of the public eye? That means the public branding of the MK party in opposing an issue that may just hit a dead end doesn't really matter. It's important that you actually say it anyway.
No. The MK party is a very credible brand. It's the only party in South Africa that within 6 months has reached the kind of level it has reached. It is the only party in the country that within 6-7 months it became the official opposition. It is the only party in the history of South Africa that managed to break the back of the ANC. So it is a very credible and strong party. We don't need theatrics as the MK party to be who we are, to maintain our credibility and legitimacy. So we don't need all of this. All we are doing right now as the MK party is to ensure that our path to power is not interrupted and is not misdirected by all kinds of skirmishes that the likes of Steenhuisen do. So we want them to be held accountable and want this thing corrected, because when we say we are a government in waiting, it's not just stories. We are indeed a government in waiting, and we're going to take over this country sooner than
Okay, well, I mean, that's a different issue. I mean, every party believes they're a government in waiting. We'll have to see what happens when it happens. I mean, I'm just saying, when it happens, then we'll have that conversation, right? Just the last thing. This route that you've gone, right, filing a complaint against Ramaphosa to the ethics committee, right, and Steenhuisen, is that the end of the route? Meaning, have you tried other means before that, like I'm assuming you're on the same WhatsApp group. Have you tried that before you got to this level?
What WhatsApp group? No,
to try and get an apology on being on the same WhatsApp group, for example.
No. We're not playing games here. We're not like buddies playing games here. We are officials within the governance of this country. Everything that we do has got rules and regulations. So when one of us is going off track, there's no rule that says use a WhatsApp group or anything. There are processes and procedures to deal with the matter, and we're dealing with the matter in terms of the prescripts provided by the law of this country. So we are following prescript. We're not buddies here. We're not doing things buddy. We're doing things according to the law, because we're a law-abiding organization.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Point made. We are not buddies. We're not playing games. Inzwandile Manyeri from the MK Party, MP there at the MK Party. A fascinating thought. Appreciate your time. Right, I'll take your calls right away. Does Mani have a point? Does the MK Party, do they have a point to be offended by John Steenhuisen? But think about this. He's representing the government, and he does point out, I mean, we all saw it, and maybe we'll try and get Keys to maybe play that sound again just now. We all saw that. And you'd wonder, because the point is, and I was saying this off air, so you get picked for what? Say Kaizer Chiefs, that's your club, and you get represented to play for your country, Bafana, for example, and you do well against Nigeria tonight, and you use that opportunity at the same time to comment on the personal race for the title, for example, on that platform, in terms of why you're there. Can you see how disconnected that is? So that's the point they're making. But Ramaphosa actually stopping him at the White House with Trump there, I don't think that could have happened. You couldn't stop him on so many other issues either, right? But anyway, I need to hear from you. Welcome to the National Pulse.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, let's get to the calls. We go to Mpumalanga first up. John, hi.
Hi, afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, look, I think man is talking nonsense here, because the MK Party, after the elections, they made it clear that they don't want to be part of GNU. They even went to court, if I'm not mistaken, to challenge the whole notion of GNU as a concept. So for them now to come and say, Steenhuisen has violated some ethics, it doesn't make any sense. For an example, the DA, Steenhuisen is correct. The reason why the DA afforded itself the opportunity to be within the GNU, it was to keep the MK Party out. I mean, that is a fact.
No, but I mean, to be fair, that's not what he's talking about. He gets that. He's saying the representative of the DA represented the country when he was at the White House. And as a country representative, being a minister, he gave his reasons of being there and being part of a political movement, the GNU that is, right, as keeping two other political parties out. And they questioning whether he had the right to do that, considering he represents the country at that time.
No, remember, Steenhuisen represents the country because he's part of GNU. And MK is the official opposition, despite having lesser votes compared to the DA. So Steenhuisen, whatever that was saying it in his official capacity as a representative of government. So he was being so representing government. He actually represents government because he is in cabinet. So the reason why Ramaphosa didn't dispute him is simply because Ramaphosa agrees with Steenhuisen over this, and Steenhuisen is correct over this. So because Steenhuisen represented government.
Okay. All right. I hear you, John. Thank you. Your line's becoming increasingly worse. My apology for that. Do need to move on. But your point is made. Right, let's get another thought on this issue. In fact, well, here's that clip. Let me play that, because let's just recollect. Nostalgia is so important. This is what was said on that day at the White House.
Individuals that are in that video that you've seen are both leaders of opposition minority parties in South Africa. Nkonto was Sizwe under Mr. Zuma, and the economic freedom fighters under Mr. Malema. Now, the reason that my party, the Democratic Alliance, which has been an opposition party for over 30 years, chose to join hands with Mr. Ramaphosa's party was precisely to keep those people out of power. We cannot have those people sitting in the union buildings making decisions. And that is why after 30 years of us exchanging barbs across the floor in Parliament and trying to get one over on each other, we've decided to join hands precisely to keep that lot out of government. Because the day they get in to the doors of the union buildings in South Africa or control of our Parliament, that's what you're going to see. And that is why this government, working together, needs the support of our allies around the world. So
You see, that's such an interesting point. He's saying that actually we were antagonists with each other, the ANC and the GA. We've come together to keep those guys out, right? Effectively speaking to President Trump to say, look at us as one, and therefore be our allies and look at us favorably because of what we've done. How interesting is that? Right, KG, hi.
Thank you very much for taking my call, Ashraf. I think this government in waiting thing, I'm afraid it is going to be a very long wait. I don't see it happening anytime soon. And number two, I do not particularly see anything wrong. I've listened to that clip over and over and over again. I don't know what is offending or offensive or wrong about that speech by that particular gentleman. I would rather have had these people waste their time on addressing things that went horribly wrong when the president was sitting in the union buildings. A simple example is, in the not so distant future, we will have private persons operating the trains in our country, which used to be solely operated by Transnet, which was a state-owned entity. You know what happened during the 9 years when that person, Steenhuisen, is talking about who they decided to keep out of the corridors of the union buildings at all costs. We know what happened during that person's tenure. So they are just seeking attention, man. I think they are just trying to stay relevant.
Attention seeking. I did wonder whether, that's why I said out on the same WhatsApp group, is it just a point to keep the MK party in the public eye? Well, it certainly does. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Zondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Parliament's Environment, Forestry and Fisheries Portfolio Committee says high crime levels in the Table Mountain and West Coast National Parks in the Western Cape are a threat to the country's ecotourism. Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis says improving neighbourhood policing in every ward will be one of the focus areas for around 700 new Metro Police officers who will be deployed across Cape Town from today. And Ethiopian authorities have officially inaugurated Africa's largest hydroelectric dam. The massive project is set to provide energy to millions of Ethiopians while deepening a rift with downstream Egypt that has unsettled the region. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng on the M2, you're asked to expect delays between Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Winnie Mandela Drive southbound and four-way, slow moving towards Leslie Avenue, and on the M1 northbound in Braamfontein, queuing traffic towards Empire Road. In KZN, the N3 southbound, a stationary bus between Cliffdale and Key Ridge, and on the N3 westbound, a crash reported at Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Crombom Road exit. The N1 outbound has a stationary truck reported at Lower Church Street, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Chumi, if you only talk about Bafana versus Nigeria, the entire 3 bulletins of the show, That's okay.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, Bafana Bafana coach Hugo Bruce is on the verge of writing his name in South African football history as he looks set to become the third coach in 23 years to guide the national team to FIFA World Cup qualification. The late Clive Barker was the first guiding Bafana to France back in 1998, and Carlos Queiroz booked their place at the 2022 edition in Korea and Japan. Well, tonight all eyes on Bafana as they face Nigeria at the Toyota Stadium, holding a 5-point lead on top of Group C, while the Super Eagles are third on the log and 6 points behind. So, on paper, if Bafana beat the Super Eagles and Benin failed to beat Lesotho in the other qualifier...
Wait, say it slower. Bafana beats Nigeria.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And Benin failed to beat Lesotho.
Okay.
Then they have automatic qualification to the World Cup. Bafana.
Okay.
But
yeah,
FIFA still has to make a ruling on the fielding of Tebogo Mokoena. And should FIFA dock 3 points, then Bafana would have to wait until after the last two qualifiers next month for them to celebrate their qualification.
So if they beat Nigeria today and that Benin result you refer to also goes our way,
yes,
how many points would we be clear, assuming that we do get docked 3 points?
So,
assuming, let's say we're 5
do,
clear and we get docked 3, then we're still 2 clear.
Yeah.
So, but is that, I'm asking.
Yes, literally. So basically we'll still be in the same point that we are right now. But in terms of looking at South Africa and Nigeria specifically, if we beat them and they still knock our points out, yeah.
Then
but it won't be confirmed today that we have qualified for the FIFA World
By the way,
Cup.
what's kept FIFA waiting this long?
I don't understand.
What are they busy with?
I really don't understand. Maybe investigations.
How long?
Yeah.
Like, what do they need? Like a whole commission of inquiry into this? It needs like 3-4 facts. What's the principle? What's the ruling done? This should have been done, 5 months ago?
Yeah,
like,
it should have
really?
been a while ago. Well, Captain Ronald Williams feels that this could be a game where they put one over the Super Eagles.
That's the history that they've got over us. We haven't beaten them in a very long time. And yes, we've had positive results. Going away to Nigeria last year, it's so difficult. And to come out there with a positive result and playing the way we played, shows that we are growing as a team. And we're getting closer and closer to beating them. We saw it at AFCON. We saw it when we played them away to Nigeria. So hopefully tomorrow, we can go a step further and, change the narrative. Because, if you looked at to head, obviously they've got the bragging rights. But hopefully tomorrow, we can show that there's a new leaf for Bafana Bafana and that our Amapiano guys can be happy.
Meanwhile, Nigeria coach Eric Chelle says that his team will focus on delivering on the pitch, but he has urged FIFA to swiftly resolve this ongoing dispute around Tebogo Mokwena's eligibility.
I'm just a coach. I lead my team. What happened around my team and around this game you talk about the yellow card. There is an organization, this organization, this name is FIFA. So FIFA need to manage it. Now, this is not my problem. Now, my problem is my players first, because they are focused. They want to make once again a great game here, and after that, just think about our game and not what happened around the game and around the story. But the reality, if I can tell you in one-on-one something, I think FIFA need to manage it quickly.
Well, in rugby, New Zealand have called on former captain Richie McCaw for inspiration ahead of their second rugby championship test against South Africa, saying that they want to go to another level. McCaw joined the All Black squad in Wellington ahead of Saturday's rematch after the home side edged a tight contest 24-17 at Eden Park. New Zealand do not have that same obvious incentive as last Saturday when they were playing to extend their 31-year unbeaten record at Eden Park, as well as honouring their 100th match for flanker Ardie Savea. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to perform against the Springboks this time around. In athletics, South African shot put champion Aidan Smith is aiming to reach the final at his maiden World Senior Athletics Championships taking place from Saturday until the 21st of September in Tokyo. Smith says that surpassing his personal best of 20.47 meters would be big achievement, and making the final would be just perfect, a perfect bonus.
It feels really good to go there as champion. I just really want to make a final, so if I throw a 21, the chances of me making a final, just getting that final spot would be big. So a PB would be highly appreciated, you know. Everything is there, we work towards this competition, everything is in order, so it's just about execution at the moment.
The Bafana game kicks off at 6 p.m. tonight, and we're definitely looking forward to it, but we continue to talk about it in the other bulletins. For now, I shall be back in the next hour.
You shall be back, and as the coach has said, FIFA needs to make sharp. I mean, really.
Really.
You know what that was a lousy part about it? See, do I sound angry? I am. Because assuming a country qualifies, let's just say Bafana, on the day, which is the ideal situation in front of your home crowd, that euphoria is put on ice.
Honestly.
Which is so avoidable.
Well, rumor says there's some encrypted message from FIFA. I haven't seen it as yet, but we'll keep looking to see if FIFA have said anything just as yet.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, justice or just ice.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Well, if we're talking about putting things on ice, this is important too. Let's talk about the Second Africa Climate Summit, right? So what should our leaders do in order for them, that's African leaders, to be able to advance the continent's green development goals? We'll touch on that in just a moment. But let's pick up on some of the comments that I've had. We're going to play some of the voice notes that you've passed on. So let's hear them out.
Hello, SAFM. No, Ashraf, I think from what Steinhazen was saying there, he said that's what they are trying to keep out, which is EFF and MK. And that's what's going to happen if they go into union building. What's going to happen when they get into union building? What was the agenda of the meeting? It was about the genocide that was created on what. So it means that was what is going to happen if the MK or EFF go. Is the genocide going to happen if the MK and the EFF go into power?
Well, I'm not too sure whether that's what he said, but I hear what you're saying. Here's another point about MK.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm Sweden, Guatemala. Of course, they have a point for being offended. It's their right. But their action is unfounded because they know that they won't win as they are taking on both Ramaphosa and Steenhuisen, who are the leaders of the majority parties in parliament. They won't win. But we all know that Ramaphosa causes them running tummies in that Stokvel of theirs. Thank you.
Okay, and here's well, I hear what you're saying about nothing will happen. Here's another.
Ashraf and the SFM listener, mind you, the government in waiting being the MK, where they're going to bring Zuma back become a president, laughing forever, and having maybe the people of Manis caliber who always just querying, complaining, and so on. What do you think about it? I don't see that. And the Gupta will be back in here, taking the money, taking even our little cent, our last cent. But
I mean, I think that's a separate issue in terms of what may happen next. I hear what you're saying, I hear your concerns, but that really is a second issue completely. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, Emmanuel Ntole in Durban. We are not going to be bullied by MK people. We know them. They've been in power for 9 years in the name of Zuma. So we know them, that they are nothing but rocks and crooks. And we as people of South Africa, we must not give them another chance to return back in power, because it will be like ZANU-PF in South Africa. Thank you.
I've just been looking at some media reports that there's been bombings, and this is what the report says, from Israel into Doha in Qatar to try and eliminate Hamas leaders who are there. But this is in another country completely. So in Qatar, Israel bombing there, targeting Hamas leaders. I'm not sure what the implications of it are, but there you are, another story in that saga of Israel versus Palestine and whatever else is around it. Right, here's another comment that I'll pick up on.
Yes, sir. The MK party mustn't use that analogy about Jesus on the donkey. So, because under Jacob Zuma, we went through hell. So is Jacob Zuma the devil? Van Cape Town.
Okay, well, interesting thought that you bring up. Let's see, there's some calls we're going to take to Jan in just a moment. Let's see if we can, let's get to Jan. Jan in Cape Town, hi.
Hi, Ashraf and your listeners. I think for me, personally, this MK fellow and the DA fellow, Steenhuisen, they the same in behavior and character, just their T-shirts that are different colors. To me, they means nothing. They're not serious about South African problems. They just want to seek attention now, and also instead of trying to build South Africa, they are even equal to the DA in destroying it by building tribalism in the country, KZN in particular. So does the DA with white privileges. So you can't take them either serious, those people. That's my view, Ashraf.
Okay, and I think many people believe that, to say, so they're going to take this issue to the ethics committee, and then what? And then have this long drawn thing about being offended. The truth is, I hear what they're saying about, maybe this person. Well, put it this way: what would be the ultimate thing? That can this cause the president to be removed? Can this cause the president to remove the cabinet minister, in this case John Steenhuisen? If it can't, does it really matter? Maybe I'm simplifying it too much. Yeah? Right, let's get to, we've got Duma in Joburg. Hi, Duma. Thank you. Go for it, Duma. Yeah.
I think honestly, Zanele is right. One reason, when they started mentioning those kind of things that they were doing for the reason why they came together, it became a campaign, like they do when before elections, or maybe after elections. Let me just put it that way. It became personal, not for the country. It was about them and their parties now. Okay, not them, not both of them actually, but because Ramaphosa didn't say anything about that. But it became about Steenhuisen and his party at that time. It didn't go there. It didn't come as a person who's representing the nation as a whole, because they went there for a certain issue, which turned out to be now.
Yeah, Duma? Okay, I think we've just lost Duma, but I get what he's saying. Well, I don't know. You see, I'm trying to look at it from both sides. That I don't think I heard what he said about the MK party and the EFF, but in speaking to Donald Trump, what came across to me was Steenhuisen effectively saying to Trump, listen, Ramaphosa and I, we were not chommies before, but we're chommies now because we understand there's a greater threat if we don't run the country together. And that's why, although we were not chommies before, we're chommies now, because we know the need to be together. So, Mr. Trump, can you please, therefore, when you consider us as a country, consider us as together and be an ally of us. This is how it came across to me. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's sincere. That's how it came across, right? Right. Do we have another call? Do we have Duma in Joburg? No, we've done Duma already. Right. Let's get to Mike in Newlands. Hi, Mike.
Oh, hello, Ashraf. Yeah, onto more important things. We're talking about jobs. We're losing them at a horrendous rate in our country as companies are leaving. And I was a bit shocked to hear on the news this morning that the unions are going to approach the ANC government to give them money, or the unions themselves are going to try and run these businesses that where the companies that have left South Africa. Now, I thought about that a bit, and I thought, well, nothing could be worse than a union trying to run a business. But, I did think that maybe what we should do is look at perhaps to India. They have a massive tyre industry. If we could bring India into South Africa, I thought that would work, because we need to protect our jobs. But of course, India was not going to come here, because from the 1st of September, we have our new apartheid laws. You only allowed so many Indians. And anyway, so the Indians are not going to come here. And of course,
Which new apartheid laws are you referring to? Sorry, I'm lost, Mike.
Oh, sorry. 1st of September, they brought in the new empowerment law now, where it's an economic empowerment law. So it's a quota system that's run through each province. They take each province, they see how many Indians, how many blacks, how many whites, and you have to hire the appropriate number. If you don't, you get a fine of 2.5 million rand or 10% of turnover at a later stage. So that counts out India. Then you've got, if you look at another thing, I thought, well, China might come. But Goodyear left South Africa because China makes cheaper tyres than they do, and we are importing tyres from China. And as you know, Chinese are honorary blacks. So when the Chinese come to South Africa to manufacture tyres here, they're not going to employ black people. They're going to employ the Chinese.
But how do you know that? Like, you just know that with certainty. Like, you've got the hotline to all of them.
Ashraf, I don't phone you up and make this up. I check. I've researched this, and I would urge, once again, for you to Google it. The Chinese are honorary blacks. It was passed in the Supreme Court.
No, I never said. I'm not disputing that part.
Oh, sorry.
I'm disputing the point that you just know they're only going to hire Chinese people. Like, you just know that.
No, because I don't know that. But if you look at the factories that are already here, they employ predominantly Chinese.
But that's not the same as all. Okay. All right. I heard you, Mike. We're going to move on. We do have to move on. Sitabiso in Pietermaritzburg. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good indeed. Go for it. What's your point?
Okay. First time calling the show. Okay. I want to mention about this gentleman, Stonehaven. I mean, like, there in US, he mentioned himself that they decided to join hands with the ANC precisely to stop EFF and MK. So my point is this: the whole issue of GNU is never about the black people. It's never about the previously and currently oppressed. It's about stopping the MK and the EFF going to the parliament. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, got that. Again, we have this huge cross-section of opinions from across the board, and we'll take more. In fact, we should have been connecting regarding the issue of the African, the climate summit, but that's not going to happen. But we'll pick up on some of that as well as soon as we can. But there's more for you to come, more to come for you, if I can say that correctly, on the National Pulse, including, by the way, it's so interesting, we actually have GDP that's going up. Now, how significant is that? We'll talk about that next.
Get ready, South Africa! 8,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the second edition of the Hollywood Bets Joburg 10 Kilometer, a thrilling road race starting and finishing at the Wanderers Club. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday, 13 September at 6:30 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and reports across SABC radio stations. # Let's Run. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so that second Africa Climate Summit, unfortunately, we can't talk about that now, maybe later on. But in the meantime, if we're saying the two most significant numbers for South Africa today would be the South Africa-Nigeria game coming up later this evening at 6 o'clock, and then the GDP numbers, which have increased by 0.8% in the second quarter. How significant is that? Rusenga Maluleke is with me, the Statistician General and the head of Stats SA. It's always good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Let me greet you, Ashraf, and greet the SAFM listeners.
Much appreciate your time. Right, let's talk about this. For all intents and purposes, the 0.8% increase coming off a low base is a pretty significant number, isn't it?
Well, for us, it's just a number. We will leave the significance to commentators and members of the public, Ashraf. But what I can say is that we will remember in the first quarter, our economy was saved by agriculture. which had, so we don't look at the growth alone when we look at the economy. We also look at the contribution of an industry. So agriculture, despite growing significantly at the time at 18.6%, it had contributed 0.5 of a percentage point amidst all the negative numbers that returned a 0.1%. So on this quarter, it is particularly 3 industries that showed a contribution at 0.2 percentage points each. That is mining, manufacturing, and trade, whereas the others contributed 0.1 percentage points each, with an exception of transport as well as construction that went in the negative.
Okay, that's interesting. So transport went in the negative, the others were positive, and those are the issues which drove it. Now, you did say you're not going to make analysis. It's up to us to do so, but you will concede, however, in trying to just give the stats as they are, that this figure is higher than what's expected over the last few, based upon what has happened over the last couple of years, right?
Certainly, what has happened, we will remember when you look at our growth in the last few years. The last time we had this kind of a growth at 0.7 and 0.8% was about 2 years ago. That was first quarter 2023, where we had 0.7% and 0.8% was recorded in the second quarter of 2023. So that's about 2 years ago.
Okay. Are there, I mean, you made the points about the different categories and how certain categories actually give rise to the higher percentage increases. Is there anything more you can tell us about that we need to know?
Well, when we look at then into each industry that contributed the most, look at mining, for example, the platinum metal group metals, as well as gold and chromium ore, contributed the most. There was a lot more increased activity in that area. Whereas with manufacturing, it was automotive, petroleum, chemical, rubber, and plastic divisions that contributed the most. And then when we come to trade, it was largely retail trade, motor trade, accommodation, and food and beverages. So those are the ones that contributed the most.
Okay. What about household consumption? You've got numbers on that too, right?
Certainly. We measure the economy from 2 sides. That is from the production side and the expenditure side. So on the expenditure side, we also have household amongst others. So now when we look in terms of expenditure, the one that contributed the most was miscellaneous goods and services, which includes issues like your software that people buy and usually people download and do use online. It contributed 0.3% percentage points. So the household expenditure grew by 0.8%, but the biggest contribution came from miscellaneous goods and services. It was followed by restaurants as well as clothing and footwear. Restaurants also grew the most than any of these subsectors, that it grew at 4.8%.
Okay, let's leave it there, excepting to say if we need to know more and have a deeper dive into it from the general public, where can they find all this information?
They can go on the web, on the Stats SA website. They can just type Stats SA, and then once they are on our website, they can see most of the products that we make available, and they can focus specifically on the economy and the GDP. That is number one. Number two is that they can pick Stats SA on still on the web and email if they want any explanation to us. But also they can call on the web. They can always pick up our toll-free number or our user information number for specific user requests or further understanding and unpacking of the issues.
Okay, got that. Appreciate your time, Risenga Maluleke, Statistician General, Head of Stats SA. Thank you for your time. And these are the numbers here. South Africa's GDP increased by 0.8% in the second quarter. That followed marginal growth of 0.1% in the first quarter of the year. So quite a big jump relative to a small, low base. We get that, right? And then the categories: manufacturing, mining and quarrying, trade, catering and accommodation were the most significant positive contributors to this growth. And maybe there's big factors to consider coming out of this, what those numbers really mean, and how may well they galvanize the South African economy to increase our growth. And don't we all need that? Right now, what I need is to talk to you right after this.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, here's another of the many voice notes we've received today.
Afternoon, Ashraf. This is David from Durban. Hey, Ashraf, we are going to have a problem in this world. If we don't stop this Netanyahu now, we'll have a problem. Netanyahu is bombing in Palestine, he's bombing in Syria, he's bombing in Lebanon, now he's in Qatar. The only question we can ask, who is next? Netanyahu is up to something big. If this world don't stop him now, this world will have a problem. I'm telling you. I thank you.
I tell you what, for me, the big question is not even going down the repeated debate we've had about Gaza and Palestine and Israel, is this: let's just forget your feelings about Palestine at this moment in time. But so Israel believes there's an enemy that living in another country, that's a threat to them. I'm looking at it from their perspective. So if they believe there's an enemy, what do? They go and bomb another country. What would be the repercussions of any other country doing the same thing anywhere in the world? Think about that. Lucky in Tebega. Hi, Lucky.
Good afternoon, sir. In this format with Mr. Mani's interview, since they mentioned the donkey and Jesus, I would like to comment holistically. The issue of Mr. John, he was responding to the question that the President of America was asking directly about individuals. He was not talking about the country. And when he started in his remarks, it was concerning the interview. We need to underline that, because that's where he started his remarks, including the interview, the clip that is played. So John, he responded concerning on that. We need also to mark that, put that to mind. He responded on how it came to the point, even to take it to that how did he got into GNU to stop such remarks. So it was concerning the specific question that Trump was asking. Let us not forget that as well.
Well, I agree with you, and that's why my point I made about Sennhausen telling Trump that in fact once we were not chommies and we're chommies now, and this is why we are chommies. So please look upon us favorably. It is in that context that he may have said so. So I'm not here to bet for him at all, accepting that that's the story they're going to paddle through. And I can't see on that position how the MK party's position can nail them down. I just don't see it happening. I think it could well be a non-issue, but I mean, you may have a different view on that completely. Right, let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, an inmate found dead in Paarl, and Ethiopia launches Africa's largest hydroelectric dam for SAFM News. I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. An inmate has been found dead after escaping from the Allendale Correctional Centre in Paarl in the Western Cape. The Department of Correctional Services spokesperson Singabako Nxumalo says Grain Martin was part of the agricultural team when he made his escape. Nxumalo says Martin, who was serving a 12-year sentence, was found following an extensive search involving SAPS and community members. He says preliminary reports show that the prisoner committed suicide. South African National Parks officials say they continue to invest resources and efforts into combating crime in their parks. SANParks briefed Parliament's Environment, Forestry and Fisheries Portfolio Committee today on the high crime levels at the Table Mountain National Park, as well as challenges in the West Coast National Park. SANParks CEO Hapilwe Silo told MPs there are multiple complexities when it comes to managing a national park.
The issue of crime is by far the largest and most critical risk that we face on Table Mountain, honorable members. And I have been emphasizing that the size, the sheer size and the location and the free access to this park creates its own set of circumstances. And I think earlier on I even said the park becomes a microcosm of the city.
Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis says improving neighbourhood policing in every ward will be one of the focus areas for around 700 new Metro Police officers will be deployed across Cape Town from today. He was speaking at the passing out parade of the new recruits at Athlone Stadium. Their deployment is aimed at reducing crime, especially in gang hotspots. Authorities say the new recruits will bolster law enforcement operations and support the SAPS. President Cyril Ramaphosa says trade negotiations between the U.S. administration and the South African government are still ongoing. The president said these while answering oral questions in the National Assembly. EFF leader Julius Malema wanted to know government's response to the 30% tariffs increase imposed by the U.S. to the country's exports. Ramaphosa responded by saying talks between the representatives of the two countries have not stopped.
We're preparing for the further formal negotiations with the United States government, which should be taking place in just a few days. They are meeting a number of stakeholders as they are in both New York and Washington, including representatives of the administration, legislators, business people, and a whole number of other people. It should be known that many other countries are doing the same to secure agreements with the United States government. The U.S. is South Africa's second largest trading partner as a country.
Ethiopian authorities have officially inaugurated Africa's largest hydroelectric dam. The massive project is set to provide energy to millions of Ethiopians while deepening a rift with downstream Egypt that has unsettled the region. The dam has been a source of tension between Egypt and Sudan, who are concerned about water security since the water facility is located next to the Nile River. Kylie Kumalo has more.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says the dam was built to prosper, electrify the entire region, change the history of black people, and absolutely not to harm its brothers. The Ethiopian leader says Addis Ababa will use the energy to improve Ethiopians' access to electricity and export surplus power to the region. They see the $5 billion grant Renaissance Dam as central to their economic ambitions. The dam's power has gradually increased since the first turbine was turned on in 2022, reaching its maximum capacity of 5,000 megawatts today.
Recapping the top story, an inmate has been found dead after escaping from the Allendale Correctional Centre in Paarl in the Western Cape. I'm on Lambada for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports, the Sawa Bafana I World Cup qualification. Nepal, South Africa set baby Proteas top 4 World Cup target. And we talk all things Discover Sport. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Kilulis interchange. The M1 northbound in Sandton is slow moving towards Grayston Drive, and Crownwood Road southbound in Crown, slow moving towards Boyson's Reserve Road. In KZN, on the N3 southbound, a stationary bus between Cliffdale and Key Ridge. The M4 northbound is slow moving near the M7 highway, and the N3 westbound has a crash reported at Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
We're going to get some sound from the President, Ramaphosa, just now because he's been in Parliament commenting about many things. We'll get to that just now. But the other big issue is the Bafana game against Nigeria, right? So, it's a must-win FIFA World Cup qualifier. How often do we say that? It's a must-win. Anyway, live from the Free State Stadium in Bloemfontein, kickoff is at 6 p.m. Watch all the action on SABC2 or stream it live on SABC Plus. South Africa lead the group. The big question, can they keep soaring or will the Nigerians strike back? You'll have to find out from 6 p.m. this evening.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Yes, and the President's got his own Q&A in the National Assembly. We'll get to that just now. In the meantime, this is significant. The South African Human Rights Commission has launched 4 reports that highlight human rights work and issues across the country. The reports are informed by the SAHRC's ongoing research, monitoring activities and data received from organs of state. Let's find out what this means and what are the implications thereof, really, with Professor Tsepo Madlengozi, the Commissioner of the South African Human Rights Commission. Appreciate your time, Prof. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Well, I think the big issue is, yes, give us meaning to all this. What does this really mean for us?
Well, this forces all of us to pause, because what we have found is that even though not all is doom and gloom, in a number of key areas, there's a need for huge improvements, and therefore as a commission, we've highlighted key areas of concern. We find that South Africans are complaining about mostly socio-economic rights, so the right to water, the right to access to electricity, the right to housing. But the second big category is on equality, specifically the fact that racism continues to be a big issue. The third area of concern is, of course, the state of local municipalities. We find that a lot of municipalities are unable to carry out their constitutional obligation of supplying citizens with basic services. So all this means that all of us, as the judiciary, but also as executive, we need to do more to abide by the constitutional promise.
Okay, I hear you. So with that in mind, you've got the creation of, as you said, 4 reports that highlight human rights work. Tell me, get into the reports themselves. What are they?
So the first big report is a report that we release annually, which is the annual State of Human Rights report. As the name says, it's a report that gives the pulse, excuse the pun, on the state of human rights in the country. The second one is a monitoring report. So every year, as you know, we institute hearings and inquiries. So what we do every year is to monitor implementation of the recommendation that we've made, so that it's not like we are just, instituting inquiries, making recommendation for nothing. We continue, we follow up, and we release reports that shows how far the state is implementing those reports. The third report is a constitutional obligation that we have as a commission, Section 1843, of the Constitution enjoins us every year to produce a report on how the state is complying with 7 rights, the right to water, the right to electricity, housing, and so forth. So Section 184 enjoins us to produce a report specifically on the socio-economic rights. And the last right is looking at our international obligations. You will know that South Africa ratifies international treaties and regional treaties. As the Human Rights Commission, we analyze and we exercise oversight to see how far South Africa has complied with those international obligations. So those were the 4 reports that we launched today.
Okay. And I mean, in terms of, yes, I mean, the reports have been launched today. In terms of answering the question that you've raised yourself about the state of South Africa across those 4 different categories, I mean, is there a general sense or conclusions that you can share with us, even though it may be preliminary now?
No, the findings are final. They're not preliminary. And the main takeaway is that the human rights situation in the country is not looking good, that there's a need for massive improvement in 2 specific areas. In the area of socio-economic rights, as I said, issues to do with basic services, but secondly, in the category of the right to equality. The general assessment that we have is that we are not in a very good shape as a country, and all of us need to improve as municipalities, as state departments, but also as private actors. We also are very clear that human rights violations are also committed by private actors, and we seek to hold them accountable. Internationally, South Africa, we say that we've done very well, in a sense that South Africa has been able to abide by its reporting obligations. So when you sign a treaty, you don't just sign a treaty. Every 5 years or 10 years, you must report on how you are implementing that obligations in terms of that treaty. And South Africa did not miss any of its reporting obligations, and that South Africa is in the process of implementing some of those recommendations. So internationally, we are very comfortable that as a country we are doing better, but domestically, really, especially the state of local municipality number 1, we find that a lot of municipalities, because of dysfunctionality, they send the budget money back from the budget because they were not able to spend it. We find that corruption and maladministration means that money that should go into building schools, hospitals, socio-economic rights are diverted because of corruption. And we find that issues to do with capacity, people who not supposed to be in certain jobs and therefore are unable to perform those jobs, leads to violations of rights.
Okay. So it's interesting. I mean, what we, ordinarily, when we talk about poor service delivery, it just seems like that, just poor service delivery. You talk about it as a human rights violation, and often when we think about human rights violations, people think about people being oppressed, being denied certain fundamentals in terms of the right to express themselves or being imprisoned without trial. But that's not the case. This is even a simple thing at its very basic level. Service delivery affects the rights for human beings to realize their fullest potential, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We talk about rights as fundamental rights, because without those fundamental rights, your right to dignity is stripped away. So to put it differently, our finding is that a lot of South Africans are still not living a dignified life because their basic rights, and the concept of basic rights seeks to denote that these are rights that you need in order to live a basic life. So our findings is that a lot of South Africans are not living a dignified life. That's number 1. But number 2, we seek to conscientize state officials to say the provision of water, electricity, healthcare, and so forth is not a favor. It's a constitutional obligation. The right to receive grants, the right to social security. It is not a favor, it's a constitutional right. So you are quite right that a violation or the lack of facilitating the access is a constitutional violation.
What can you do about it? So I mean, what you've said is a reflection of the many, many people who called into a show like this, who expressed their disgruntlement about what they see as violations every single day. So now that those are your findings, what can be done about it?
So in a lot of areas, we have taken municipalities and the state departments to court. We've litigated and we are getting good judgments. In some cases, we exercise our powers to subpoena. Just last week, we had subpoenaed the Makana municipality, where we find that, that municipality is not even able to implement our recommendations, and we make specific recommendation to the department, including that maybe the state must consider taking it under administration. So the tool of subpoena is a tool that we use to subpoena municipalities so they can be accountable and that we can chart in a plan for changing things. The third thing that we do, of course, is that we engage with municipalities, we engage with state departments. We have, a lot of engagement, and sometimes they understand where we are coming from, and there's no need to litigate, there's no need to subpoena. We find one another and they change course. The fourth thing that we are able to do is to table these reports and all our other reports to Parliament, because Parliament is a co-oversight body, just like us. They exercise oversight. And I must say that some portfolio committees have been very, very open to working with us, the portfolio committee on water, the portfolio committee on agriculture and so forth. We've been able to submit our reports. They've been able to summon the minister. They've been able to summon state officials, and we've seen some changes. So that's what we can do with these reports. We can litigate, we do subpoena, and we do submit these reports to Parliament and to the Speaker.
Okay, just to conclude, and I know you've been commenting about it as the SAHRC, the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, he pronounced on issues about, informal settlements and evictions in the province, right? What do you make of his comments?
No, as a South African Commission, the Human Rights Commission, we are saying two things. Number one, we warn all municipalities to carry out evictions in line with the Constitution, in line with the law. We are not saying that evictions must not happen. No, we're not saying that. Of course, unlawful occupation, there must be a process to deal with that. Yes, deal with that, but within the law. We are very concerned that we receive a lot of complaints, and we've seen a lot of unlawful evictions. Evictions without court order, evictions without alternative accommodation, evictions without engagement. On the Premier, we did not pronounce on whether they could carry out evictions or not. We simply noted our concern that the utterances that evictions will even be done at 2 o'clock in the morning. We start to say to the Premier, do carry out your work, but be in line with the Constitution, number one. Number two, perhaps evicting people at 2 o'clock in the morning is not in line with the precept of the Constitution to do with dignity. Is it dignified to wake up children in the middle of the night and render them homeless? So we said we note with concern that such utterances might not be in line with the constitutional precept of dignity.
Okay.
And we will be engaging with the Premier to, find one another, but also to help the Premier to abide by the Constitution.
All right, just quickly, when you say engaging with him to find each other, is that not putting it mildly? Meaning, can stronger action be taken against him?
There has not been any unlawful action by the Premier. There's not been any unconstitutional action by the Premier. What we seek to do is to say the Premier, as someone who has signed an oath of office to uphold the Constitution enjoins you, number one, to carry out your work in line with the Constitution, give us assurance that you will do so. And then number two, evicting people at 2 o'clock in the night might not be in line with the values of dignity of Ubuntu that the Constitutional Court has. So there's no need for stronger measures at this point.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Professor Tsepo Madlingozi from the SAHRC.
I was in another insurance company and I wasn't happy. One of my colleagues was also without insurance and she was happy. My niece is without insurance and she's happy. Then I just decided I wanted that happiness.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
Every month?
Every month.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
What brought you and Outsurance together?
Let me just jump on the call with them. Let me just see what's happening. He asked a lot of things about my vehicle, my sexy vehicle over here.
Ooh.
Yeah. And to my surprise, 718 Rand I end up saving. And this awesome product called Panic Assist. 24-hour security if we need their help. Thinking I'm a father, I need to look out for my family.
Absolutely. They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 1 kg D-Lite 37% fat spread tub for $34.99 and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 200 gram Baker's Murray biscuits, any two for 30 Rand, and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 22 September 2025. While stocks last, T's and C's apply.
Right, first things first, this message is brought to you by Ituba, the operator of the National Lottery, right? Mzansi, set your sights on playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for 114 million rands in total. Guaranteed jackpots today. You heard right. Play Powerball for the guaranteed 57 million rands and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 57 million rand as well today. So buy your tickets now in store or the nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, the cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So the President has been pretty busy today at the National Assembly answering questions on a range of issues regarding the U.S. government, the trade deals, all of that has an impact in terms of where we are, including the national dialogue and so on and so on. What we've done, we picked out some key moments from today. Firstly, the President reacting to, exports to the USA.
Malema is talking about, without knowing what outcome that option will have. Our option is informed by what we want to gain. And what we want to gain is to continue exporting to the United States as much as possible and to enable companies also to invest in the United States, but to also get United States companies to invest in us. And we do have leverage. And our leverage has to do with, yes, the natural resources that we have, the minerals that we have, which the United States needs. The discussions that we are having now with the United States also revolve around that. The critical minerals that South Africa has and the capacity that we have to process those minerals with the energy backing that we have, which many other countries don't have, is something that we take to the table and use as leverage. So I'd like to say that it is a strategy that we have opted for, and a strategy of engagement, and a strategy which we believe will yield results, notwithstanding the fact that we are obviously dealing with a United States administration that at times is unpredictable and that at times just retaliates. And without being supplicants, without, going on bended knee, which we have never done and which we will never do. And we have said we will not be bullied. We will stand as a sovereign country and negotiate and get the best deal for South Africa. That's precisely what we're doing.
I mean, just an interesting thought. Ramaphosa saying we will not be bullied. It's not something, and maybe it's understandable. He wouldn't say that to Trump directly, would he? Or would he say it even in the USA, even if Trump is not in the same room? Now, he has spoken about capitalization of Postbank. This is what he said.
Once we've cleared those two questions, I should say that capitalization of the Postbank is something that needs to be handled with the necessary care. Firstly, the fiscal challenges that we face are enormous. We don't have easy money lying around, but at the same time, what I said in my reply...
Honorable Klute, can you please switch off your mic?
What I said in my reply in chief was that there are quite a number of conditions that have to be met. Now, I should say that the progress that is being made in moving towards getting the Postbank to become a properly registered bank is actually quite encouraging, because now there's a clear roadmap. And the roadmap is, from a governance point of view, the board must ensure that everything is well aligned. Themselves is to ensure that all these other matters that are regulatory, that have to do with governance, and that have to do with financial prudency are all attended to. Remembering that the Postbank in the end is going to be managing public money. And we therefore ourselves need to be absolutely certain that this bank will operate in terms of the laws, in terms of the regulations that we have that govern banking in South Africa.
And the big question we always ask is, like, what about the national dialogue? So what about it, Mr. President?
Outcomes of the national dialogue will in the end be determined by the citizens of our country. They are not going to be determined by the president, nor any one of us sitting here. National dialogue should be seen as a structured process where the citizens of our country, together with political actors, civil, come together to deliberate on the future of their own country, to debate on the South Africa they want. Its importance, therefore, lies in several interconnected dimensions. The national dialogue is aimed at giving ordinary South Africans a voice to articulate precisely the South Africa that they wish to have and how they participate in crafting the solutions for the country.
Well, that's the president. Just time now for the news. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Limpopo ANC Youth League chairperson Faith Sebopela says taxi violence could be behind the fatal shooting of their PEC member outside Klerksdorp in the northwest. An inmate has been found dead after escaping from the Allendale Correctional Centre in Paarl in the Western Cape, and a new study by the US-backed International Justice Mission suggests that there's widespread police abuse across Kenya. The organization polled nearly 6,000 people. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand has a crash reported after Allendale Road. The N3 southbound in Lindbro Park has a crash before Marlborough Drive. In KZN, on the N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg, a crash after New England Road, and on the N3 southbound, a stationary bus and truck between Cliffdale and Key Ridge that's queuing traffic both ways. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is slow moving towards the R300 highway and High Level Road inbound slow moving towards the city centre. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
If my maths is correct, it's 88 minutes, not 90 minutes, to the start of the Bafana-Nigeria game.
We're getting there slowly but surely. And Bafana Bafana coach Chico Bruce says that it's a big opportunity to qualify for the World Cup against Nigeria tonight. For that to happen, as I did mention in the previous hour, they need to win, and also for Benin to drop points against Lesotho in Abidjan. But Bruce has reminded that Nigeria also still have a slight chance, and they shouldn't be underestimated.
It's a big opportunity we have tomorrow. We all know if we win the game, we are qualified. This is not mathematically, but then it should be a miracle if we shouldn't qualify. So we all know that. And it's a big opportunity to win the game tomorrow. But again, we are playing against a very good opponent also. And it's not because they are 6 points behind us that you have to think that Nigeria is not a good team anymore. When you see the players there, they all play abroad in big teams in Europe. So that means there is quality. But we don't have fear to play that game of tomorrow. I think we make a fantastic qualifier still now.
So, Ashraf, we've been talking about this whole Tebogo Mokoena points being docked or not. The interesting part is that FIFA themselves have posted, this is what I am reading from their post. 2 more teams could secure the FIFA World Cup qualification today. Egypt will qualify if they beat Burkina Faso, while South Africa will qualify if they beat Nigeria, or Benin fall to beat Lesotho. This is FIFA.
Or to be very clear, the person who posts on behalf of FIFA, as opposed to the official FIFA position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's FIFA.
I know, but I'm just saying
I hear you.
that's subject to another ruling that can come.
I know.
I mean, I hope that FIFA is right. The social media FIFA is the one I believe.
Well, we'll have to wait and see with regards to that. But just last week, a brand new sports platform was launched. It's called Discover Sports, and it's basically a social media platform that is built to give every athlete a voice. Just to tell us a bit more about this, we are joined by the founder of Discover Sports. He goes by the name of Stephen Watson. Stephen, thank you very much for joining us on the show. A very good afternoon to you. Can you just break it down for our listeners what Discover Sports is?
Thank you for having me on your show, and good afternoon to you and all of the listeners. Discover Sport is exactly that. It is a dedicated social media app for sport and only sports content. It's because we do truly believe that every athlete deserves a voice, a place where it can connect with their communities and build fans without the noise of all other content that forms part of social media. It gives them a much greater chance of being discovered. The stats on mainstream media are horrific in terms of the amount of content that is never seen and talent that is never discovered. So we wanted to create a curated environment all about sport, whether it's an athlete, team, a league, an event, a coach, an agent, a talent scout, for them to exist in a sports-only environment and increase the benefits to the athletes, some of which are very talented, living hand to mouth because they're not part of a mainstream sport. They might be part of an underserved sport, and really to allow them to build authentic connections with their fans and then obviously attract more brands to back them.
So how exactly does the platform level that playing field for athletes, especially those who are traditionally overlooked?
Well, first of all, the platform has every sporting discipline categorized, and if we don't have it today, we add it off the back of approaches to say, listen, my sport isn't included. I think we've captured most of them. And that means you've got a community based specifically around that sport itself. There's a scouting option within the app that allows an agent or a scout to select the athletes that they want to follow, or teams and events, etc. And hit scouting, it just reduces your entire content catalog to purely the athletes that you're looking at, without any recommendation engines or white noise or interruptions and algorithms that might distract you into other content. And then obviously, particularly down to, you can select the individuals. Every time somebody loads a new piece of content, you get an alert that gives you the link to that specific piece of content, so you don't have to go and find it in the carousel. And the big problem that we then try to solve is that if an athlete or a team in an underserved sport has a sponsor, you hear this, I'm not on broadcast, my sport is not on broadcast, we're not on any of the sporting platforms, but I've got 50,000 followers on social media. How does a brand activate that outside of being on your t-shirt or on court side or field side? They want to have their own share of voice, they want to promote their products and services, but they want to do it attached to your content, not just have a digital spend and you might appear on something that's related but not directly endorsing the sport that you're following. And our research shows that fans are way more open to watching an advert of the sponsor that's backing the sport that they love and follow, as opposed to being served up adverts that are non-branded. And so we've tried to create an ecosystem that most importantly is free for the athlete to be able to publish their content, to be able to live stream events but free for the fan. And we've gone one step further, that we reward the fan for their attention through a very unique patented reward system for a streaming platform.
I mean, quickly, just before I let you go, I do understand that obviously there's also some built-in coaching, mentoring, even live streaming into the platform. How do these features create real opportunities for the athletes to grow and to earn? And also, just for those athletes that are listening, within less than a minute, how can they get a hold of this particular social media? Is it an app?
So first of all, discoversport.com is the website. Discover Sport is the app. It's available on the app stores. Majority of any advertising revenue that is on the platform goes back to the specific athletes. We've also created the Discover Sport Foundation, in which we take some of the proceeds and we put funds into a foundation to back athletes who are trying to raise money to go overseas. They've qualified for a world championship or a big international event, and they're in the newspaper saying, please, corporate South Africa, help me. We've already backed 52 athletes in our pilot period to go overseas and represent the country in their chosen sporting disciplines. So you can click on the menu, click on the foundation section, follow the application process, and let's see that we can get the right talent to represent the country overseas.
Stephen, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I will definitely look into this Discover Sport, which is absolutely interesting, Ashraf, I think.
In fact, I know all about it.
Nice.
I was sitting next to Stephen,
same
Stephen.
Oh, nice.
At the launch of the South African Invitational Pedal event at the Wanderers, mid-August. So we were on the same table the night before. So yeah, I know all of what they do. They're live streaming and what they're trying to do. And I think they do
absolutely
great work.
Yeah, specifically focused on sport. Well, with that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
When you're smiling, describe your favorite socks.
Pink and orange stripes.
They're blue with yellow dots.
Green, and they kind of look like snakes.
The ones that make children smile.
On 19 September, wear your favorite socks and help spread smiles to children in need of a life-changing surgery. Get your Socks for Smile sticker today at smilefoundation.co.za. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Okay, you would do well to just note this. This message brought to you by Ituba, the proud operator of the National Lottery, Mzansi. Set your sights on playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for 114 million rands in total. This is guaranteed jackpots for today. Play Powerball for the guaranteed 57 million rands and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 57 million rands as well. Buy your tickets now in store on thenationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years old or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to another sort of numbers game here with Makwe Masilela from the Makwe Fund Managers. You've got news on the Supergroup.
Yes, Ashraf, these guys, for their final year results, they unlocked value to shareholders by selling SG Fleet for 7.4 billion in time business in Germany, and that strengthened their balance sheet and reduced debt. Hence, they could afford a special dividend, and the net gearing reduced from 136% to 20.6%, and unfortunately, their revenue was down 1.4%, profits as headline earnings down 1.2%. And yes, we have seen that while the much awaited US inflation data is unlikely to factor into the Fed September rate decision next week, it is likely to affect the Fed's stance towards future easing. And Anglo-American merges with Canada's Tech Resources, that's almost a 928 billion deal. And just over a year, remember, Anglo was subject to a takeover bid itself from BHP, while Glencore unsuccessfully tried to buy Tech in 2023. Ashraf, all this is a reflection of the desire to expand the copper production, and our Q2 revenue growth, our Q2 economic growth rose by 0.8%, driven mainly by mining, manufacturing, household and government spending, and the strongest quarterly growth in more than a year. And remember, Q1 growth was 0.1%, and that managed to beat market expectations of 0.5% growth, and oil extended gains after Israel carried out an attack on Hamas leadership in Doha. And in an escalation of a conflict in the region, we've seen Brent crude going up by 1%, trading at $66 a barrel, and the yellow metal building on sharp gains in the past session on growing bears on US rate cut next week, a weaker dollar, and the escalation of geopolitics. Gold is up 0.4% at 3,647. It touched new record highs, but platinum is down 0.2%, and global stocks have managed to pay the earlier gains as the U.S. created 911,000 nice jobs. That is between April 2024 and March 2025, showing that the economy was not doing that great. The JSE touched new record highs. Now it's only up 0.4%. The rand is flat against the dollar 17.50, 23.71 against the pound, and 20.54 against the euro.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Mark. And of course, a reminder that we have an update, the market update, that is a full hour, in fact, coming up from 6 to 7 this evening with Jimmy Muyaha.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
I tell you what, lots of times we talk about different things. We talk about networking, we talk about connectivity, we're talking about people being together. We talk about, a world with no boundaries at all. And that's, to a large degree expanded by the rise of the digital economy. So what about the global exchange, and what does all that mean? So let's find out about that with Mr. Anil Comello, the city manager, St. Helena, California in the USA, talking to us about just that. Appreciate your time, and you are now well connected to the National Pulse.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
How can I help?
Well, you tell us in terms of your overall premise, in terms of where you are as an organization and where you want to go under this concept of, optimizing service delivery around innovation, urbanization, inclusivity, productivity, and global collaboration.
Yeah, so ultimately, the HR practices in any organization, the U.S., in South Africa, or elsewhere, requires a couple of different things. One is that it requires rigorous vetting of candidates in the selection process, holding employees to high standards, terminating employees if they do not conform, providing training, investing in our employees, and of course, at the end of the day, providing competitive compensation, all in the interest of better outcomes to the community, better services to community. And as a city manager, which is my current role as opposed to human resources role in the past, it is really important that as a city manager, I have the independence from political influence or interference, so that I can hire the right employees, align them to the organizational goals, and deliver effective and efficient services to the community.
Give us some examples of how that plays out.
Yeah, so in my context, in California anyway, I am hired by a council of the mayor and 4 council people I'm given the direction to establish the norms and deliver services to the community. Of course, I can only deliver based on the resources I have, and so with the council, we set goals for the organization, and then they set the goals, the council sets the goals, and my job, along with staff, is to deliver those on those goals. And so they do the what we need to do, and we do the how we go to do it. And the goal being, of course, to provide employees with the right direction to deliver services. Now, while these are, of course, community services and are provided by ultimately people. So it's not policies or capital, even though in certain areas capital can be very important. They're very intensive in terms of delivery of electricity, water, and sanitation. But at the end of the day, we need suitably qualified and highly motivated staff in order to deliver high-quality services that are cost-effective.
I often talk about the importance of people as central to building anything. So we talk about, building the champion people to build a champion nation. And interesting enough, it's very aligned to, your thoughts about, people, not policies, being the backbone of municipal performance. Tell me about that. And once we agree on that, how then do you ensure that manifests?
Hold on. So you're asking how the
concept of people, not policies, being the backbone of municipal performance. How do you then utilize your platform to ensure that is manifested?
Yeah, so again, it goes back to it's ensuring that the HR processes and systems are designed to attract highly ethical, hardworking people who are willing to learn and serve the community with pride and conviction. People who are naturally collaborative, service-oriented, and responsive to the needs of the communities they serve. And so it's a process, and ultimately we need to be weeding out as well. And of course, we need to continually measure ourselves both with our benchmarks in our community, with other communities that are similarly sized, as well as professionally within each discipline, so that we are continually improving our services and being efficient in order to be able to deliver services that the community can wants and, in fact, needs.
Of course. Now I speak to you. You're speaking out of California and the USA. We are in South Africa. How do we then in South Africa? Because of course we're concerned about local government. We're talking about SALGA. How do we utilize your platform? Meaning that I would take it would be applicable to any surroundings, any platform, any community in the world if applied successfully, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. In the last 3 days, while we have been here in South Africa and previously in Eswatini, one of the things that struck me is how similar our issues are. They just sort of different days, so to speak. And in fact, this morning I made the point in one of the panels I served on that in some ways the structure of governance, particularly the city manager form of government, here in South Africa is more advanced than an average, most on at least 40% of American cities. Now in California, the concept of council manager form of government, where the manager actually runs a city, is at 97% compared to 60% throughout the United States. So in some ways, again, South Africa is ahead. But we have learned in these last few days that we can learn from each other. There's no one has a monopoly of information, particularly in the information age. And we need to continue to have these dialogues and sessions where we learn from each other. And so, to me, every community is, you may think that just because I happen to be in a California city, that we somehow a better resource, and that's simply not true. When I get back, there'll be discussions in my community about how to increase revenues. In fact, last November we had an item on the ballot that lost, that would have generated more tax income, but the community said, no, we don't want to pay more taxes. We also had a proposal to build a hotel that would have given us more revenue, and the community said no to that as well. And because we are resource constrained, our roads are not in good condition. We have water quality issues. In fact, there's right now brown water coming to our faucets in our city. And so we have similar challenges, may not be exactly the same, but we have similar challenges in the U.S. as well.
What about, one of the key objectives I see you have is on the issues of thought leadership, right? So what have you observed around thought leadership practices in South Africa on the one hand, but on the other hand, what have you learned from South Africa that you could take back home to the USA?
Yeah, one of the things I've learned from my South African city manager colleagues is how they really view the policymakers, which is the mayors and city council members, as very, very important stakeholders, and how they learn to really roll with the punches as it relates to politics and the communication and the interaction that needs to happen. In a way, that's something that I need to learn as a person. Some, of course, we all individually have different skill sets, but that's one thing I've learned as a system. There's also a lot more interdependence and communication amongst cities of certain size. Of course, we can always improve on that, but that's the other thing that was a lesson learned for me, that when I get back, I need to have more communication with other cities in similar situations, so that we don't have to independently figure out how to do things, but we need to learn from each other. So attending more communications nowadays, especially we can have Zoom calls and so on. We don't need to, go for conferences, but certainly conferences like this, but that forces us to be in our same space, allow us to have those conversations, and at the end of the day, learn more so we can deliver better services.
Well, I'd say lots to consider there. Appreciate your time, Anil Comello, the city manager, St. Helena, California, in the USA, reflecting on, the global exchange and how they connect to many parts of the world, but in this case, to Salga in South Africa, looking to a large degree around the issues of service delivery at local government level and the issues of talent management and overall efficacy. And I think this is just so important. And that point about people being the backbone of municipal performance is noted. So much appreciate your time. Now we have time for you, as in you're on the pulse. I need to feel you.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Well, we've had lots of conversations around the MK party early on, and we continue doing that.
Hey, the MK party is the official opposition, and they're simply behaving like the official opposition. Same as the DA when they were in official opposition. They were in courts all the time and no one said anything. And the devil story and Jacob Zuma and the view of the wasted 9 years is not the view that is held by everyone in this country, certainly not by me. And therefore, we shall vote for whoever we want to. If it means MK. Thanks. My name is Bongi.
Thank you for that. Well, you are right about that. Voting for whoever you want. That is why this. And I think I told that to Emzanele Manye as well. This thing about the government in waiting. I've heard Ramaphosa. I've heard the EFF say the same thing. Like, at this point in time, does it really matter until you win an election? Thomas in Newcastle, go for it. Hello.
Hey, Ashraf. I was listening to Mr. Manye and all that. And what occurs to me is South Africa has not come to understand that anything that has Msholozi, with all due respect, cannot survive unless he is fighting with somebody over something. You see? So right now, if you consider that Steenhuisen went there as representing the country, just like when they would be speaking about the government of national unity, whatever is being done by the ANC, they never stop looping in all the other guys who are with the government in the GNU, with the ANC. So this is politics. They can't be taking us or taking the ANC and the DA, and I'm saying us because I'm South Africa, they're my government. They can't be taking us to the courts and all over the show just because we didn't practice freedom of speech the way they want us to. Because when they are calling Steenhuisen, all the names in South Africa, in the public platforms where they would be talking, Steenhuisen doesn't run around taking them to wherever unless it is hate speech. And
Well,
it's true.
yeah, okay. I hear you, and I think you may be right. Look, in the same breath, Manye again made the point that the entire vote for the last election was rigged, and there's no evidence to suggest that. But that seems to be I mean, that's their modus operandi. So I hear you. Thomas, thanks for that. Appreciate your time. Let's get to Polokwane now, because when you call, you put your whole city or town on the map. You know that, right? So the ambassador for Polokwane is Lala. Hi, Lala.
Good morning, Ajay.
Yeah, good. You are the ambassador, you see. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about the issue of the professor from South African Human Rights Commission that spoke to you earlier today.
Yeah.
I really don't understand if this HRC is for us as South Africans or for the illegal foreigners, because we have too many problems that are the citizens of this country are facing. But in most of the cases, they keep quiet. But the moment when the foreign nationals, more especially the illegal ones, the moment they are touched, they come out and they are defending them. I really don't understand. For example, today, these days, you go into the clinics, you go to the hospitals, people have been turned around many times, or when you go to UIF. But the Human Rights Commission has never said anything. How many young people are without books, textbooks in the schools? The Human Rights Commission has never said anything. Earlier this year, there was a situation there in Mafikeng where one young guy was refused entrance to the school. We wrote to the South African Human Rights Commission. It said to us, we will investigate. Till today, we are still waiting. But if that child was a child of a foreign national, they should have attended here and there.
No, but I mean, you don't know that for sure. We are making a lot of assumptions on that. They will definitely look at them and ignore you, right? Okay, Lala, Ambassador Polokwane, we'll chat again soon. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Here's another comment about Jimmy Manyi or Imzwanile Manyi.
Ashraf, Jimmy Manyi is clashing on straws and it's just rambling. I've been trying to follow what he's saying. I don't understand him. And I think he himself does not understand what he's complaining about. Because I can't follow what is their problem. But anyway, I don't follow him.
You don't follow. In fact, we get another reaction on the pronouncements of Imzwanile Manyi and the MK Party. We'll do that right after 5, in fact. So in terms of what legal standing does what they say have? Think about that. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock.
Sabia's court bid dismissed in a study on Kenya police abuse. Good day to you. The High Court in Pretoria has dismissed a bid by the Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sabia, to return to work. This after the National Police Commission's decision to direct Sabia to stay at home pending an investigation. This after he was placed at the centre of allegations of corruption and misconduct within the police service by the KZN Police Commissioner. The Limpopo ANC Youth League chairperson Faith Sibopela says taxi violence could be behind the fatal shooting of their PEC member outside Klerksdorp in the northwest. He died after the minibus he was travelling in was shot at by unknown suspects. He and other league members were travelling to the Northern Cape for a meeting to prepare for the National General Council. The chairperson elaborates.
We checked whether we would have been followed or was it just an unfortunate incident, thugs taking advantage. Cars that were following that car had lights on them and we suspected security lights. Then we were suspecting that perhaps it's a taxi war. It should be around issues of taxi war whereby they don't agree in terms of who must be driven in vehicles and transported.
Opposition parties in the Kumaze local municipality in Mpumalanga have criticised the municipality for failing to provide services to the community. This as residents of Naas embarked on a violent protest demanding water. The parties allege the municipality selling water to private water tankers who in turn sell the water to residents. The DA's Frank Shongwe.
I will say the municipality is really failing the people of Nkomazi. Even now what is happening at Nancy with these private water tankers, because these people, they are buying the water with 59 rand and selling the water to the resident with 250 to 300 rand. That depend on the area. So I think maybe something must be done. So we really support what the people are complaining about, because now the community of Nancy, they have to share their water that they're supposed to get free. You know that water is a fundamental thing that anyone must have access on it.
Minal Nkubasi, municipal mayor, was allegedly chased away by angry residents, with police using rubber bullets to disperse them. Municipal spokesperson Mbuso Malala has dismissed claims that they're making money by selling water to water tankers.
A truck of 5,000 litres pays a minimum of 50 rands, if I'm not mistaken. There's no ways that we can make profits on that. Actually, we are making a great loss. It's just that because of the scarcity of the water, people do need water. And in order for them to have water continuously, because we ration water, sometimes we cannot deprive people from buying from private sellers.
An inmate has been found dead after escaping from the Allendale Correctional Centre in Paarl in the Western Cape. The Department of Correctional Services says he was part of the agricultural team when he made his escape. He says the man, who was serving a 12-year sentence, was found following extensive search involving the police and community members. Initial reports suggest that the prisoner committed suicide. Further afield, a new study by the US-backed International Justice Mission suggests there's widespread police abuse in Kenya. The BBC's Akisa Wandera has more.
The most common abuses reported were corruption, harassment and wrongful detention. Despite the scale of the problem, fear and mistrust in the justice system mean that most incidents go unreported. The study found that nearly 2/3 of victims never came forward, and only a small minority believe that officers are held accountable for their actions. The report comes in the wake of deadly crackdowns on youth-led protests earlier this year.
The top story: the High Court in Pretoria has dismissed a bid by the Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, to return to work. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Gous.
In sports this hour, Bruce on the brink of SA history, and Brevers fetches record 16.5 million rand at SA20 auction. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound queuing towards the N1 Diepkloof interchange. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a stationary vehicle before Bekloo interchange, and the N1 southbound has delays towards Grasmere services. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg has a crash after New England Road, and the N3 southbound has a stationary bus and truck between Cliffdale and Key Ridge, queuing traffic both ways. In Cape Town, the N1 southbound in Gordons Bay has delays towards Grasmere services. The N7 Jakes Hartwell Drive northbound slow moving towards the N2 highway, and Batencrag Street outbound slow moving towards the elevated freeway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
So you thought you were building a business? In this economy? Good luck. But day by day, somehow it grew. You became payroll, procurement, PR, and pressure valve. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. What's that saying again? What doesn't kill your business makes it stronger? Or at least it should be that. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So there are some areas that are unclear and some that are clear. What's clear is there's been an Israeli strike on in Doha, in Qatar, which is obviously a sovereign nation. That's one thing. From the Israeli side, the reports are that they did that to target Hamas. What's not clear is whether anybody from Hamas has been actually assassinated, as has been the plan. There has been some reports that somebody from the Hamas leadership has been killed. There's also been reports of threats and disappointment from countries like Saudi Arabia expressing their displeasure at what has happened, and the US suggesting as well that they knew nothing about it. Now, all this is very, very hazy, but it does have huge implications because this is a country completely, whatever the motivation from the Israeli side, the key part for today is that it's a country outside their borders completely. And what are the implications of that, right? We'll certainly take comments from you on that issue if you wish to raise it. Let's, however, talk about what we discussed earlier on, the issue about the MK party filing complaints against Ramaphosa and Steenhuisen after that White House meeting. So let's get another thought. We earlier had the conversation with Mzwanele Manyi. You can listen to that podcast. He made a lot of reference to Jesus and the donkey. He mentioned it like 7 times, I think it is. Let's get the thoughts of Professor Becky Mngomezulu, the political analyst from the Nelson Mandela University. Appreciate your time, Prof. Thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, my brother, for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Okay, so first things first, now that the MK party has filed a complaint. It's not just a tweet. They've formally complained with the Parliament's Ethics Committee against President Ramaphosa, as well as the minister, in this case, Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen. What do you make of it?
No, first of all, my brother, I'm not surprised about this move. It was bound to happen, and in fact, it should have happened earlier, because there is a problem with our politicians. They suffer from what I've described in the past as an identity crisis. The delegation that went to the US, to the Oval Office to meet President Trump, was supposed to be a government delegation, but it was not. You recall that there were other people who are not necessarily members of parliament who were there. You know who they were, and they were part of the delegation. And then as to under what circumstances that happened, I'm not too sure. Then during the discussions, you had more especially the president and the Steenhuisen. Let me focus on those two.
Yeah.
The president was not there as the president of the ANC, and Steenhuisen was not there as the leader of the DA. They were there as part of government. So which means that whatever discussions that happened there was supposed to be confined to government. In other words, the South African government having discussions with the American government. But what they did was totally different, especially Steenhuisen. He was totally out of line. So I had expected this particular complaint to be raised sooner rather than later.
Okay, now I hear what you're saying, and I've certainly heard what the MK position has been, right? Now, what we'll be bound to get, and we've had them already from callers saying, in the midst of so many other issues in South Africa, so Steenhuisen said that we're there to keep out the EFF and the MK party, but he's speaking to Donald Trump of all people. So the point is, so what? Like, what does it actually matter, really?
No, it does in terms of the image of the country. In fact, I had issues with what Steenhuisen said, and I also had issues even with what Zingiswa said, when she said that South Africans were naturally corrupt, naturally violent country. There are things you don't say when you are in a public platform, especially in an international stage. So in this case, it does matter because it created the impression that the South African government, as things stand at the moment, is not united. Even this multi-party coalition, which they decided to call a GNU, which it is not, it is also not united, because then you are going there with one of your ministers and you should be reading from the same script, but then when he arrives there, he speaks as though he's speaking on behalf of a political party, which used to be the official opposition until the 6th administration.
But you see, just to put this into picture, I mean, Steenhuisen was responding to Donald Trump's video play of particularly of Julius Malema and kill the boer, kill the farmer, and therefore he was attempting to distance himself from that sort of position and saying that is why we joined the GNU with people who were not our allies, meaning Ramaphosa and the ANC, because we want to keep the other people out. Now, I'm saying in that case, you saying, this thing destroys the myth of the plan of a united government or united country. How does it do that, considering that he's talking about two parties outside the GNU?
No. He's saying that the reason why the DA joined this multi-party coalition was not because they are friends with Ramaphosa, for starters, nor that they are friends with the ANC. He said they joined this multi-party coalition for one reason only, that is to keep the MK party and the EFF away. So which basically then tells you that even the president did not see this one coming, because all along he was under the impression that the DA joined this multi-party coalition because there was no outright winner in the 2024 general election. So then the idea was that then in order for government to be constituted, you then needed parties to come together. In this case, the DA got number 2. But then it turned out that Steenhuisen invented a different idea, a different reason for joining this multi-party
but I'm just looking at it from
even
myself.
if
I'm saying that they all formed a GNU because no one party had a majority. We know that, right? So they had to form some sort of a government or coalition. Now, their reasons, each party has got very, very different reasons. I'm saying, why would Ramaphosa not know that the DA is there to, the DA is there to keep other parties out? Like, surely that would be naive. And so what if they have different views? Because every day they have different opinions anyway. It's what they do together as a GNU that matters.
You know, the question I asked my brother makes things even worse, because it tells you that the team that went to the Oval Office did not do any brainstorming. They did not discuss anything before going there. We were told that they were discussing something. But then once Trump started speaking, then he just caught them off guard. You will also recall the same thing happened when he started showing the graves which are allegedly found in South Africa, which was factually incorrect. Instead of the president saying that, no, in our country, we don't bury people like this and we don't have this grave, he said, where is that? We are still going to investigate. What is there to investigate? Because it was clear, it was a blatant lie. And President Trump knew very well that he was telling a lie, but he wanted to just play with their minds, and then he found them wanting.
Well, you are playing against Trump, right? You are against Trump at the end of the day, and we've seen what he's done with the lead of the Ukraine, and he's done lots of different things. So I mean, getting back then to the key points, right? Not so much about what happened there. So Manyi and the MK party have now laid a charge. Do you think that's the right thing they've done?
As I said at the beginning, it's the right thing that they've done, because they are not basically invoking Section 89 of the Constitution saying that the president must resign, because the issues they are raising don't warrant that. Even if they did, they would not get the required 2/3 majority. But they are making a genuine concern, saying that this must go to the Ethics Committee then to check if indeed what they did there was in line with what they have agreed to as members of parliament. So I think that one is in order.
Okay. And if it goes to the Ethics Committee, I mean, what's the process for the Ethics Committee to rule on it, and what are the implications thereof?
There are no serious implications, but at least because the MK party is currently occupying the position that used to be occupied by the DA, so it's within their right then to hold the executive to account. So in this case, what they did is basically executing their mandate. Then as to whether they succeed or not is neither here nor there. And then if they do succeed, then of course the Ethics Committee is the one that is going to decide the sanctions, whatever those sanctions will be, but they would not amount to invoking Section 89 and saying the president must resign. Instead, they will come up with a sanction which would be agreeable to the members of the committee, and then they will activate those. Whatever those will be, at the moment, it's hard to speculate.
Yeah, one of the points that Manyi made about President Ramaphosa in particular was that their gripe against him was that when John Steenhuisen spoke about, the other parties, the MK party and the EFF, that Ramaphosa did not stop him and rebut him immediately. Now, I'm just putting it to you, knowing who Trump is and the atmosphere at the White House at the time. I mean, seriously, did you really expect Ramaphosa to do that?
No, the president is a smart person. He could have done it, but diplomatically. One of the things he could have done, for example, would be to allow Steenhuisen to make the statements that he made. Then when it was his time to speak, then he would have used that opportunity to say that what his minister has said, in this case Steenhuisen, is something that they will look into. but he wouldn't want to venture into the discussion of labeling other parties in a different manner, because it was their decision not to be part of the multi-party coalition. That's the best answer we can give without offending Trump, and then the discussion will continue with other points.
Okay. Just the last thing. At the end of the day, like you said, it will go to the ethics committee. They could rule against it. They could sanction, if anything, right? That would well be a long drawn process, but this is not an act to call for resignation, which they won't win anyway, right? But in the greater scheme of South Africa now, one of the points put forward to the MK by myself and by some of the callers, that never mind what was said earlier and your views, we've heard it, that is this not simply a case of the MK party trying to ensure that they remain in the spotlight, top of the agenda all the time?
No, in fact, I think the opposite is true, because one of the concerns we have been raising when the DA was the official opposition was that there were instances where they were supposed to be acting as an opposition party and being vocal on certain issues, and they didn't do that. But then you don't always come up with accusations, even if there is no substance, because then, of course, that will tarnish your image. So in this case, that's why I was saying that I think the MK, my view is that the MK is right in raising this issue through the proper channels. Because one of the things they could have done, for example, if they were doing grandstanding, they would have said, because the president did not represent the country, did not defend the country, then they must invoke Section 89. That will be taking it too far, in which case then I will be the first person to say the MK was wrong. But on this one, I think the approach is indeed the correct one.
Okay, got that. You certainly got us thinking. Appreciate you sharing your insights. Professor Becky Mngomezulu, the political analyst from the Nelson Mandela University. So there you are. You've heard Mzwanile Manyi representing the MK party. You've heard the thoughts of the professor, who by and large is supportive of the MK position. So what about you? Has your mind changed? Do you think that they both are right? Do you think the president could have done something differently? Do you think that Steenhuisen was just absolutely wrong in doing what he did to bring up two other parties, speaking as minister, not as the leader of the party? Because Manyi made that point already. If he spoke on behalf of his party, they had no issue with that. He was speaking representing the country. And then, should Ramaphosa actually have stopped or tactfully said, can we talk about this some other time, or do what he did, which I think he just sort of ignored it. He just moved on to other things, keeping in mind there was this serious time deadline. Well, all of this is the issues and more that moves the national pulse. What for you moves your pulse today?
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme, Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, we'll take comments from you as soon as we can. You know the story. If you're a first-time caller, I want to know about it, so let me know. But to call in, young, old, male, female, whoever you may be, around the country, around the world, live streaming when you're listening to, right? 086 000 2032, and then text notes to 0614 104 107, and do send us voice notes, maximum of 30 seconds, please. Right, let's get to the Thrive by 5 index report. So let me get it right. Thrive by 5, right? Now, this refers to age, I would think. The report shows that many children in South Africa start school without the skills needed to succeed in the foundation phase and beyond. And the report also shows that only 42% of enrolled 4-year-olds are on track for early learning, meaning there's a deficit already before they even get to grade 1 or even grade 0 now, right? 28% are falling behind, 30% are falling far behind. Sure, that's 58%. So why, and really speaking, what should be happening next? Sibongile Khumalo, Deputy Director at Data Drive 2030. Appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and your listeners.
Thank you. So, first of all, what's the basis of this Thrive by 5 index report?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And really the basis is, as a country in South Africa, we pay a lot of attention to how children finish school. But really the Thrive by 5 index says to us that how and whether they finish school depends a lot on how they start school. And so this is why early childhood development is so central to our growth and development as a country. So as you said, the first round of the index was conducted in 2021, and this was during COVID. And we've recently released the results of the 2024 index, and you rightly quoted the percentages there. Thanks.
Okay, let's talk then about these numbers. I mean, in terms of the research done, those numbers seem, strikingly baffling, concerning to me. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we assessed 5,001 children across 1,388 early learning programs. So it's a nationally representative sample in 432 wards, 11% of the country, really. And so we assessed children in 3 main areas. So it's for early learning, physical growth. So if you think about it, we measured height, which really indicates for us whether children are at risk of stunting, which is largely due to chronic malnutrition. And then we also assess them on socio-emotional functioning. And really we need children to have healthy development in all of these 3 areas for them to be able to thrive by the time they turn 5, because we know then that they are ready for school.
Okay, now the fact that we don't have that, and I don't know how many times I may have asked this question to how many different people, why is that the case? Who do we hold accountable? What do we do next?
I mean, it's a myriad of challenges, Ashraf. Children from especially the poorest backgrounds are less likely to be developmentally on track for their age. And, we're also seeing differences in boys and girls, which are consistent with what we've seen before in 2021 as well as in international data. And so that's kind of a developmental challenge between the 2 genders, which highlights that we need to be paying more attention to boys. But really, a lot of our children, the majority of this country's children attend early learning programs or ECD centers that are not well resourced often, or the teachers are not well qualified, or the ECD practitioners. We're also learning from the study that teaching strategies make such a great difference in seeing great developmental outcomes. And, a lot of these practitioners, even if they have a qualification in early childhood development, don't really learn key strategies that help them function in a classroom setting, being able to relate to children. Just a simple act, for example, of coming down to a child to ask them questions rather than standing up tall in front of them makes such a key difference in how we engage them, asking them about their emotions, and asking them questions, speaking to them like full human beings makes such a key difference in helping them develop healthy.
Okay, so therefore, so we have this huge deficit, right? And the longer there's a sense, right? And again, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a sense that there's not a day that somebody talks about the need for radical change here, notwithstanding the historical divides we've had in our country, right? If it's that important, it needs a radical intervention, as, for example, we intervened around the issues of COVID-19, right? Do you get a sense that it's happening in any ways? Are there discussions about it? Are there practicalities that are being put into place or not?
There are two key things here. Early learning doesn't only take place in early learning programs or ECD centers, it also takes place at home. Learning starts in the home. So there's very big things that parents and caregivers can do in the home environment, and part of the index was really exploring what is happening in the home environment. And then secondly, there's big things that we can do around shifting government policy. So some things have improved over the years. So you would know, Ashraf, that ECD now falls under the Department of Basic Education. There's been large investments made. There was a 10 billion rand announcement in the last budget speech, an injection into early learning programs. So we need to really have our government spending this money well. Only 44% of early learning programs reported that they received the government subsidies on or they received them at all, and only about 39% of them received them on time. So it's also about making sure that we strengthen the subsidy disbursement systems so that funding flows to early learning programs are on time and in full. So there's very key things that government can be doing at a policy level, a financing of the sector, but really important things that caregivers and parents can also be doing in the household, like reading to children, reading with children, making books available in the home, telling stories, the presence of fathers in the home. We also discovered that when fathers are involved in their child's development, in learning at home, it makes a huge difference in terms of significantly increasing the developmental outcomes.
Just the last thing. I mean, we have this national dialogue that's been kickstarted. And yes, I know it may at ultimate stage affect every aspect of South African society. What happens after the recommendations, we don't know, right? But is there a need, or is there one already happening? Is there time now for an education dialogue on a massive scale with touch points around education and learning around the country?
There absolutely is, and many of these dialogues are taking place within the sector. What we're really needing to do is to have multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder conversations, so that different sector partners, from business to NGOs to individuals, the early learning programs themselves, as well as funders, can be having conversations about what we can do collectively. We're needing to really be thinking about removing financial barriers to enrolling children in early learning programs. In South Africa, early learning programs charge fees for, at least 50 Rand all the way to over 1,500. So we need to be having conversations about how do we remove financial barriers so that all children can access early learning programs. And there are 350,000 children that are not even enrolled in early learning programs with really low developmental outcomes as a result.
Yeah, there's lots to consider there. In terms of the findings, is there a way we can direct people to even learn more about it with maybe more analysis on that?
Yes, absolutely. So all the results, our main report, as well as summaries and recommendations and a call to action are available on our website, which is thriveby5.co.za.
That call to action is critical. Appreciate your time, Sibongile Khumalo, Deputy Director at Data Drive 2030, reflecting on the Thrive by 5 Index report. The reality is there's far too few children, learners at 5 who are thriving. Far too few are thriving. Far too many are not thriving by 5. It's 5:30 now. Here's Greg Gross.
Thank you, Ashraf. A quick look at the headlines. The High Court has dismissed a bid by the Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, to return to work. More than 900 jobs are at risk at Aspen's Pharmacare eye drop manufacturing facility in the Eastern Cape. And Israel has carried out a strike on Qatar's capital Doha, targeting the senior leadership of Hamas. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Sandton has a crash before Grayston Drive. On the N14 north in Centurion, a crash before Jean Avenue. And on Mabopane Highway northbound in Pretoria, there are delays towards Hebron Road. In KZN, on the N3 westbound, queuing traffic towards Hammersdale, and on the N3 southbound, a stationary track at Kerfdale. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has a stationary vehicle before Hospital Bend. Viking Way in Epping is where a crash is reported at the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive Junction, and Bosmansdam Road eastbound in Summer Greens has a crash at the N7 Highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Righty, we start on time. 28 minutes to South Africa versus Nigeria.
And Bafana Bafana coach Hugo Bruce is on the verge of writing his name into South African football history as he looks set to become the third coach in 23 years to guide the national team to the FIFA World Cup qualification. The late Clive Barker was the first guiding Bafana to France back in 1998, and Carlos Queiroz booked their place at the 2002 edition in Korea and Japan. Well, tonight all eyes on Bafana as they face Nigeria at the Toyota Stadium, holding a 5-point lead on top of Group C, while the Super Eagles are third on the log and 6 points behind them.
It's a big opportunity we have tomorrow. We all know if we win the game, we are qualified. This is not mathematically, but then it should be a miracle if we shouldn't qualify. So we all know that. And it's a big opportunity to win the game tomorrow. But again, we are playing against a very good opponent also. And it's not because they are 6 points behind us that you have to think that Nigeria is not a good team anymore. When you see the players there, they all play abroad in big teams in Europe. So that means there is quality. But we don't have fear to play that game of tomorrow. I think we make a fantastic qualifier still now.
I'm actually looking at the starting lineup, and it has Ronan Williams, Samukelo Kabini, Mbegezile Mbogazi, Siyabonga Ngezana, Zuko Mduyelwa, and Batusi Obas, Tebogo Mokoena, Oswin Apollos, Sipho Mbule Mohaonkota, and Lyle Foster. And wishing them nothing but the best. On paper, if Bafana beat the Super Eagles and Benin failed to beat Lesotho in the other qualifier, that would guarantee an automatic qualification for the World Cup today. Elsewhere, Ange Postecoglou has been appointed Nottingham Forest head coach. This is after Nuno Santo was relieved of his duties. Postecoglou will be in the dugout for Forest's visit to Arsenal in the Premier League on Saturday, with the Australian set to be joined by several of his former Tottenham Hotspur coaching staff. Now, Postecoglou has been out of management since leaving Tottenham, and he had contact from Al Ahly, who considered him a candidate for a managerial change, but it was not pursued, while he was also contacted by Brentford. In rugby, New Zealand have called on former captain Richie McCaw for inspiration. This is ahead of their second rugby championship test against South Africa, saying that they want to go on to another level. Now, McCaw joined the All Black squad in Wellington ahead of Saturday's rematch after the home side edged a tight contest 24-17 at Eden Park. New Zealand do not have that same obvious incentive as last Saturday in terms of extending the 31-year unbeaten record or honouring the 100th match for flanker Ardie Savea. So the big question is, what will their motivation be this week? In netball, South Africa acting president Mamedi Ale has issued a top 4 mandate for the under-21 baby Proteas ahead of the World Youth Cup. This is from the 19th to the 20th of September. The baby Proteas will compete in Group D alongside Malawi, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago, with the top 2 in each pool advancing to the playoffs.
As Netball South Africa, our wish is to see the team, going through the top 4. That is our wish, and that's probably a mandate. But what will be best, achieving as Netball South Africa is for them to be top 3. That will be the best results ever, that can happen, for our under 21 to get a gold. And we see it as possible, especially given the performance that they've displayed when they went to Jamaica in the test series. They managed to win all their matches, and we saw them through participating and competing with the senior teams at our TNL, and they were performing well good. So this team is ready, is well trained, and definitely the expectation is for them to perform more better at a Junior World Cup. So Netball South Africa will be over the moon if they can be, one of the top three, and then being able to be on the podium.
Well, then in cricket, the SA20 for the 2025-26 auction began with record-breaking bids today. Devalt Brevis became the league's most expensive player, snapped up by Pretoria Capitals for 16.5 million rand, along with Keshav Maharaj sitting at 1.7 million rand and Lungingiri at 2.3 million rand. Durban Super Giants secured Aiden Markram after a bidding war with Sunrisers Eastern Cape for 14 million rand, while also adding Devon Conway 3.25 million, while youngster Kwena Mapaka raked 2.3 million rand. In terms of the Sunrisers Eastern Cape, they strengthened their side with Andrik Nortje, 5 million rand, Quinton de Kock for 2.4 million rand, and Matthew Brieska and Senuran Mutusami at 6.1 million rand and 1.5 million rand respectively. Well, we are looking forward to Bafana Bafana this evening. I can see that Coach Hugo Bruce is already doing pre-match games. I am going to ask you again. Give me your prediction for tonight.
You're not asking yourself because
no, I'm asking you.
You got 40%
I know.
right the other day.
Can we not do that?
Maybe I should ask you that, but you're the expert, not me.
No, I'm asking you.
All I can say is if Hugo Bruce qualifies us for the World Cup, he'll become officially Hugo Boss, if you get my point.
Of course, but that is not a prediction.
We'll win 2-0.
2-0.
Yeah. Now, what about you?
Coach.
Who cares who the coach is?
I think 2-1.
Because of the coach?
No, I'm just saying. I think for tonight, 2-1.
I don't even care about the amounts. We'll just win. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least we agree.
Then can we win the DC story? That's another story. Because, ideally we should be celebrating tonight.
I think we are. If FIFA...
No, celebrating as in doing a whole... Remember that Pitso Mosimane story about the AFCON? They got the numbers wrong. Yeah, man. And then, of course, I think the 2003 Cricket World Cup.
I remember.
Where we felt we had enough to be ahead of Sri Lanka and we got it wrong by 1.
I remember.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the same thing is going to happen this time. But anyway, let me go.
The Morning Brief.
From this conversation about the digital economy, influencers and content creators against the bigger scheme of what they're trying to raise by way of revenue for the fiscus. Is this really something that's viable, that can be a big source of taxes?
I think it is, because number one is you must remember SARS is now like Big Brother. Whatever you do, whatever goes via your bank account, whatever you are doing on social media, etc., SARS is watching you like Big Brother. And because of that extended reach in terms of technology and your social media, so even before you think you know it, SARS knows it already.
Professor Rashid Small, Executive Manager of the African Virtual Institute of Accountancy.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, we touched on it earlier on. Let's get even further analysis ahead of that 6 to 7 show by Jimmy Moyahan. Jimmy, GDP.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, the GDP print coming in surprising markets to the upside. We're going to take a look at that in a bit more detail when we get around to our show with the team at Citadel to get a better sense of some of the driving factors there. We know the mining sector really came to the party this time around. Last time it was agriculture. This time it was the mining space. So we're going to take a look at that as part of our show, but we're also going to take a look at some other developments that we've been keeping an eye on. We're going to be taking a look at the conversations around Sweep South. They put out an interesting report that they do on an annual basis around the state of some of their clientele, in the state of some of the hard-earning workers of South Africa. We're going to look at that in the context of minimum wage from a report that they put together. We're going to speak to Sweep South around what that report has in terms of insights for us. And then we've got a conversation with the team at Nedbank Commercial Banking around NAMPO COP that takes place this week. NAMPO Bothaville took place earlier in the year. NAMPO COP takes place typically around this time of the year. We're going to speak to the team at Nedbank around that. And then we've got a conversation with Simon Brown around the decision, a big decision by a company called Walmart out of the US to enter South Africa. So that's going to shake up the retail landscape in quite a big way. We're going to take a look at that. And we're going to take a look at that in the context of the same or similar announcements by SPAR to exit their Swiss business and potentially their UK business. So we're going to take a look at what's happening in the retail landscape and what it means for South African consumers and whether or not we're going to get more choice locally. And then we're going to wrap up the show with a Agri feature, as we do every other Tuesday. This week, we're taking a look at something interesting from the Competition Commission. They suggest that we could potentially be in for egg prices coming down. They have been quite expensive for the longest time. So I'm excited to have that conversation and find out when those egg prices could potentially come down. But that's all for a little later on. Before we go, let's get a sense of what's been moving the markets or how the markets have been responding throughout the day. That GDP print from a local perspective seemingly feeding off of the local momentum that we had from yesterday anyway. Industrials up almost 0.8%, financials up 0.33%. Resources were down for the majority of the day off the back of softer platinum and palladium pricing, but they did manage to eke out 8 basis points worth of gains to finish in the green. So all of our sectors were in the green. The all share up 0.44%, the top 40 up 0.48%. The gold price $3,641 a fine ounce. The Brent crude price, $67.08 a barrel. Not too concerning at this point, but still edging higher than what we'd like to see it. But platinum and palladium having softer days, as I mentioned earlier. Platinum 1,370, palladium 1,144. The rand against the US dollar, 17 Rand 53. At some point, we'd just broken 17 Rand 50. When I looked earlier on, we were at about 17 Rand 49, 48-ish. So we're just back above 17.50 at the moment, still showing a bit of strength from the Rand's perspective there. Against the British pound, 23 Rand 72. 1 euro would set you back 20 Rand and 55 cents. And 1 Australian dollar, 11 Rand 55. 1 Bitcoin, $110,800 odd a Bitcoin. Or in Rand terms, 1.943 million Rand. So a little softer there due to the stronger Rand price, but also the slightly weaker Bitcoin price. Quick look at international markets before we go. The Hang Seng was the only indice in the Asian markets that finished in the green, and it was up 1%. That was off the back of the ASX in Sydney and the Shanghai mainland index being down 0.5% in each case there. European markets were a bit of a mixed bag. The DAX was down 0.4%, but the CAC 40 and the FTSE were both in the green. US markets are slightly flat at the moment, with the FTSE almost exactly flat, the Nasdaq down about 5 basis points, and the Dow Jones up about 0.1%. We're going to look at these and other market movements a little later on. I want to get a sense of what's happening from a market's perspective. We got an interesting announcement from the team at Anglo. They are expanding their copper business or their copper portfolio, so we're going to look at that. I've got Chantal Marks on markets with me a little later on today, so lots to dig into when we come back a little later on around that. But for now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, perfect, Jimmy. Enjoy your show 6 to 7. Lots to consider there and reflect on as you come up with all the market stories, the money and the markets from 6 to 7 here on SAFM. It does mean we need to be talking to you about issues in the country, issues around the world, issues that, in whichever way, moves the national pulse.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, let's get to your thoughts. We'll take your calls. We'll take your WhatsApps. First up, we go to Lynn in Kimberley. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Can you hear me?
I certainly can, yeah.
Yes, good. Just a comment, Ashraf. I found it interesting that you mentioned the Israeli Air Force strike on Hamas terrorist leaders.
Yeah.
And not a single word about the 6 Israelis that were killed on the bus on the way to Jerusalem. But you three terrorists. What a word. It hasn't been on the news even today.
Well, I can't discuss what's on the news because the news is covered by the news. The
But
fact
there's
is,
nothing mentioned.
what happened today is a country attacking in another country. There's a very big difference between what was clearly a horrific attack of other civilians in Israel. But it wasn't on when I was on at that time. But if the news doesn't cover it, I really can't dictate what happens on the news. But I'm talking to you about...
And we've had this discussion about how it is biased reporting. I know you're going to tell me that you don't decide what they report, but I do want to just make a comment that just because it was Jews, it didn't really matter. If it was anywhere else in the world, it would have been reported.
All right, well,
But just because it's Jews,
Yeah.
it doesn't really
Okay,
count.
well,
Thank you, Ashraf.
you've made your comment, Lynn. Thanks for that. AB in Durban, go for it. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah.
Your guest, Mr. Manye, presented himself as a person of great principle and righteousness. His former associates, the Guptas, didn't exactly act like Jesus Christ when they looted this country. I wonder how he views these fugitives from justice, and also that they took millions of taxpayers' money and used it to set up a TV station and eventually handed it all over to your guest in some devious scheme. If he had any sense of principle and righteousness, he would have handed everything back to the state. I wonder who the real donkey is. The MK party has to wait a long time, perhaps when Jesus returns, to maybe rule this country. They are just splitting hairs to stay in the public eye.
Okay, that's it, AB. AB's making his point also very strongly. Yeah, okay. I'm sure others will comment on that too. Willie in Kuma. Hi, Willie.
Yeah, look, Ashraf, Ashraf, you see, from your callers,
yeah,
most of them, when we're talking about the Human Rights Commission, most of your callers would be not in favor of what the Human Rights Commission is doing. So that's logic in itself. But now your government, for instance, would go towards the left, because your government would just leave what you call porous borders just to take place like that for a long time. You know, my point is actually on the guy who called, Ashraf. The guy who was saying the Human Rights Commission, as usual, would be in favor of the foreign nationals. And most of your callers, Ashraf, had the same sentiment. But you, Ashraf, in particular, not only you, most of the presenters would argue with us that we are lying. There's nothing of that sort. It's as if we hate the foreign nationals. We don't hate them. We are suffocated with them in our hospital, illegal ones. We are suffocated anyway. Motsoaledi said that long time ago.
All right, Willie, I hear you. So how do you want to link it to the Human Rights Commission? I mean, in terms of what they've said today.
Look, Human Rights Commission, no, usually would be in favor of illegal immigrants who are doing wrong things. They would be in favor with criminals as well, Human Rights Commission. We say that every time, not only me.
Okay.
So logic tells you that people, callers, are in order. You defend it because you are the employer of this government. That is very corrupt.
Really? Okay. Got that. Employer of the government. That's a new one. Willie in Kuma. Thanks for that. Right. Imbawana in Mahikeng. Go for it.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Right. Your point?
Yeah, the attack in Qatar is coordinated attack. This one is America, Qatar itself, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Because it was a meeting for the peace deal. And then what happened? They attacked. The similar happened in Yemen. When the Yemen prime minister was attacked, he was also in a meeting. So
how do you know it's coordinated? I mean, look, we do know it's Israel because they've owned up. They've been very clear that's what they've done, right? In another country. But how do you know it's coordinated between those four countries? I mean, like, where's your proof?
Because Qatar could activate the air defense if they were serious about the whole scenario which was happening there. But luckily, these people survived. They've never been assassinated. They survived, all of them.
Okay. in Botswana. I tell you what, it's so interesting in the space of just 5 minutes, the absolute diversity of opinions on the show, on the station. I mean, that's fine. There's no way we're all going to agree all the time, isn't it? What's important is we do talk. We're going to agree often, and we're going to disagree often. But what we do have is the freedom to express ourselves. We have that in abundance in South Africa. Make a note of that, the National Pulse.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
The Tourism Business Council of South Africa presents the Tourism Leadership Conference from the 17th to the 19th of September under the theme Matters of Tourism, Growth, People and Policy. The conference brings together leaders to explore how tourism drives jobs, growth and opportunity in South Africa. Catch SAFM live on Thursday, 18 September, for exclusive conversations shaping the future of tourism. The TBCSA, the leading voice of tourism in South Africa. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, this message is brought to you by Tuba, the proud operator of the National Lottery. Mzansi, set your sights on playing Powerball and Powerball Plus for 114 million rands tonight. Guaranteed jackpots, right? So you heard it. Play Powerball for the guaranteed 57 million rands and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 57 million rands as well. Buy your tickets now in store on the nationallottery.coza, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, there's more thoughts from you. In fact, there's lots of comment regarding your thoughts on many issues here, right? So let's pick up some of the WhatsApp comments. First of all, the issue on Postbank.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You know, in response to what the president said with regards to the Postbank and its functionalities, you know, it's ironic how they have money for commission of inquiries, they have money for national dialogues, things that have no purpose and only political interests of their own. But things that really matter, like a Postbank, they have no money for it. It's so ironic, eh? Daniel, in here in Bryanston.
Okay, got that. Let's move to John Steenhuisen.
Ashraf and the SFM listener, you know what? Steenhuisen wasn't wrong. We are not united. We are the violent country. We are the violent society. We're killing. We're doing everything which like is out of their life. We cannot like blaming, like when the person talking the truth, people blame him. It's like when like you blaming Stefano in the Bible, they blame him because he was telling the truth. Jesus also. So the MK of New MK, we're going forward.
Okay, got that.
Hi Ashraf, this is Kaiser from Bushbuck Ridge. Ashraf, some of the analysts, like the one who was analyzing the issue of the MK party, they are very disappointing. If they want to be politician, they must just join political parties, and especially for him, he must just join MK and stop like speaking in riddles and talking things that doesn't make sense.
But why was he disappointed? I mean, what did he say that suggests he must join a political party? I mean, he said what he said, and he believes the MK party are right. He's not the first analyst to ever agree with another political party's opinions, isn't it?
Afternoon, Ashraf. This is Mapswase Tripala. The move by MK is the right move. Most of the politicians who are appointed either as ministers or voted as president do not differentiate between representing their parties and the government when they are given a platform to speak. So Mr. Steenhuisen did wrong. They were supposed to be reprimanded. So good move by MK. Thank you.
Okay, got that. And there's more.
Hi, Ashraf. With regards to the Thrive by 5 statistics, the government has shown itself to be a very poor steward of our infrastructure, meeting people's basic needs like water, sanitation, and to then expect very good stats from a Thrive by 5 perspective is just not realistic. Banton Durban.
Well, I do agree with you that we can't have this conversation all the time. We just can't.
Hello, Ashraf. Just in connection to that, what the man of the MK said, I think he's taking it out of context. You can't just look at it alone. The fact that Mr. Steenhuisen said that in the White House was because of a video that Trump showed of Malema shouting, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." So obviously the ANC is going to stand together with the DA to make sure that that's not going to happen, or that's at least how I understand that. So context is an important thing here. Paul from Stellenbosch.
Thanks, Paul. Paul, I mean, you may have heard. I mean, you sent this voice note a long time ago. I mean, in essence, I said the same thing, that he was responding to that. Now, we're not even discussing whether Trump is right or wrong. And clearly, the position from the GNU was to win the support of Donald Trump and to win the business support of the USA. That's really what they went for, isn't it? Not to go and discuss any other issue. And they were going to try and pacify them as quickly as possible. I mean, you could ask the next question, did it work?
Hi, Ashraf. MK and EFF are just wounded lions who always want to revenge. So their jobs is to oppose what the ANC or the government is doing wrong to the society or to the community, not just to take the government or maybe DA to the court with such a flimsy exercise. No, they have run out of reality now and out of tracks completely and out of minds as well. Thanks, Willie Nkuma.
Thanks for that, Sir Willie. I mean, do you agree with what Willie's saying, that in fact, whatever they've raised, I mean, is it that important or not?
Ashraf, I'm sure Syriza Aposa thinks we are all kids, honestly speaking. How can you say we are all going to determine what is going to happen after the national dialogue, while we are not even the part of the national dialogue? He selected the few, of which are not even representing us as South Africans. The March on March and the Tutula operations organizations, they are the ones who are supposed to be there, who talks on our behalf. Not all Wabosiakulis and other celebrities.
Well, it's a fundamental question, right? Who, when we say we the people, who speaks on our behalf? I mean, I'm not in Parliament, you're not in Parliament. Who speaks on our behalf? Do you genuinely think that even the way the democratic system works, that somebody speaks on our behalf? And if you're saying no to that, how do you reform that system? I mean, really.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Hey, I normally don't take Mzwane Lemanyi so serious, but this issue which he's talking about, that's the truth. He is on point. Very much on point.
Money on point. Here's another one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners. It's Keshi here from the Western Cape. I don't actually like to criticize people on their views, but this MK thing, everything that they do is just driven by their Jesus's hatred for Ramaphosa and anything to do with Ramaphosa, whether, it's so obvious, it smacks of it. And like, can't they get on with doing something constructive in this country instead of this continual thing? It's political talk saying keep them out. Yes, I'm not standing up for Steenhuisen. I'm just saying grow up already. Come on.
Okay, well, I don't need to add to that. You have spoken. Are they going to be listening to you? I don't know. By the way, catch the podcast of all the interviews we've done on today's show, as well as yesterday and the day before, all of them available at safm.coza. Thanks for listening. It's Bafana versus Nigeria. My eyes are on that game. Here's the news with Greg.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Serbia's court bid is dismissed in